Although he knew from the start that Lord Wu controlled everything in the Red Cloud world and could be said to be the steward of the Red Cloud world, Lord Wu was clearly not the realm spirit of the Red Cloud world, but a material life form. Since he was a life form and could control the Red Cloud world for Patriarch Red Cloud, he was undoubtedly a powerful expert. "My name is Wu," Lord Wu said indifferently. "If it were many years ago, in the depths of the universe, some people would have known my name. Supreme Wu." Jian Wushuang was shocked. Lord Wu was a supreme expert? Now, "Do you think I have the ability to guide your wife?" Lord Wu looked at him. "Of course," Jian Wushuang said immediately. What a joke. A supreme expert could even guide an ultimate ruler. Although his wife had comprehended a principle and become a principle's master as soon as her body recovered due to the astral heart, she had only comprehended one principle, but she had only comprehended one principle. How great was it for a supreme expert to personally guide her and even want his wife to inherit his legacy? "Lord Wu, how long will it take for my wife to completely inherit your legacy?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Well, it depends on your perception. It will take a few hundred years or maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years, Lord Wu said. Jian Wushuang looked at Lang Rushuang and asked, "Shuang-er, what do you think?" "I'm willing to take Lord Wu as my teacher," Lang Rushuang said. She did not hesitate. She was so decisive because she knew her husband's current strength and how heavy the burden on Jian Wushuang was. As a wife, she naturally wanted to help Jian Wushuang as much as possible and share his burden. Now that such a good opportunity was in front of her, she would certainly cherish it. "Well, we'll stay here for a while longer." Jian Wushuang smiled and then looked at Lord Wu. "Thank you, Lord Wu. I'm doing it for myself." A smile appeared on Lord Wu's face. Then, Lang Rushuang went through a simple ceremony of apprenticeship in the Red Cloud world. After the apprenticeship was completed, Lord Wu began to guide Lang Rushuang on her cultivation path. Jian Wushuang stayed in the Red Cloud world and continued to increase his strength in the second heaven with the help of the numerous opportunities on the island. In a flash, 400 years passed. Although the Red Cloud world had not opened, the Red Cloud world was not the only opportunity in Crimson Stone Mountain. Therefore, there were still a lot of experts who roamed the mountain all year round. The depths of Crimson Stone Mountain could even be considered an unexplored region. Huge blood rocks piled up one after another. In the middle of the pile of blood rocks was a tall old man with a purple horn on his forehead. He was sitting there cross-legged, and right in front of him were numerous dense secret engravings. Each of these secret engravings was profound and unfathomable. When they were combined together, they were shockingly a layer of a great array formation. "Ha! It's done." The tall elder with the purple horn suddenly let out a hearty laugh. As he moved his hand, the secret engravings within the array formation started to flow. An ancient and dark aura slowly rose up. "It's been 160,000 years. Ever since I discovered this array formation 160,000 years ago, other than the 10,000 years when the Red Cloud Tide appeared, I've spent most of my time studying and comprehending this array formation. I can tell that behind this array formation is an independent world or an independent heaven and earth secret realm. The independent space or heaven and earth secret realm, hidden in the deepest part of Crimson Stone Mountain, must be a great opportunity. Therefore, I've spent a full 150,000 years studying this formation with all my energy. Now I've finally found a flaw in it, a tiny crack in it. If I follow this crack, I'll be able to enter the hidden secret realm of heaven and earth, and all the opportunities in it will belong to me." The purple-horned, tall old man, Horn laughed maniacally. His eyes were filled with an unprecedented joy. What was the most important thing about adventuring in the three great battlefields? It was opportunity. And now, Ruler Horn had spent a full 150,000 years just to barely open a small crack in this formation. In his opinion, he would definitely be lucky enough to get a great opportunity. He was only a high-level ruler and his power wasn't that great. He hadn't been able to do as he pleased in this star field because he hadn't gotten any great opportunities before. But now, he saw the hope of a great opportunity. Of course, he was pleasantly surprised and happy. But suddenly, swoosh, a ghostly black light flashed and disappeared. The smile on Ruler Horn's face suddenly froze, replaced by shock and astonishment. He stared straight ahead of him, where a terrifying black baleful aura was gathering. This baleful aura was countless times denser than anyone else Ruler Horn had ever seen before. This baleful aura, it was too terrifying, so terrifying that Ruler Horn felt suffocated. Soon after, a black figure slowly appeared in front of him. He was dressed in pitch-black armor, his skin was tanned, and the surface of his body was suffused with a faint glow. His eyes were as cold as a blade, and wherever his gaze swept past, the laws of the world seemed to crumble. He felt as though he was a devil god from the netherworld. His cold, blade-like eyes locked onto Ruler Jiao's body, instantly causing him to feel as though he was in an ice cellar. His body trembled, and the skin on his body twitched. He was even shocked to discover, under the gaze of this black figure, he didn't even have the strength to raise his hand. A single gaze caused him, a high-level chief sovereign, to lose the ability to resist. So, the black demon god's figure suddenly flashed and appeared in front of the chief sovereign. His large hand directly pressed onto the chief sovereign's head. Ruler Horn widened his eyes. He had no ability to resist at all. Soon after, he discovered that an incredible power was acting directly on his soul. Ruler Horn's consciousness instantly dissipated. His soul was completely controlled and watched by the other party. After a long while, the black demon god finally put down his hand. Ruler Horn's corpse chased after him powerlessly. Star Field? Space Battlefield? Crimson Stone Mountain? The black demon god murmured, but his face gradually emerged with an unprecedented ecstasy. It's the universe. It really is the universe. Ha! Came out. Ancient Night Demon King, finally from that damnable place, walked out alive. Ha! Crazy and wanton laughter suddenly reverberated between heaven and earth. A long time did not disperse. The 800th year of Lung Rushuang's recovery in the Red Cloud world. Husband, look at the whip. Lung Rushuang looked down from above. She waved a long dark green whip with her jade-like hand and swept out like a swimming dragon. In an instant, a violent power filled the air. Jian Wushuang stood below and felt that he had fallen into a vast sea, just like the light sword skill, one of the strongest sword skills he had created. The difference was that the light sword skill was mainly used to trap or entangle enemies. However, Lung Rushuang's whip skill was extremely violent. The waves in the sky rolled up crazily, forming a series of tsunamis that rushed toward Jian Wushuang. This whip skill is amazing. Jian Wushuang could not help but exclaim in admiration. But then he formed a sword with one hand. Break! With a light word, the successive tsunamis that swept toward him were immediately broken from the middle. The entire vast ocean was cut in half, without any artistic conception. Lung Rushuang's figure fell from the void. Shuang-er, your whip skill is getting more and more powerful, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. What's so powerful about it? Didn't you just casually break it with a sword? Lung Rushuang rolled her eyes at Jian Wushuang and said, You don't know how to give way to me. Jian Wushuang touched his nose with a strange expression. However, the whip skill that Master taught me is really amazing. There are 16 moves in total, and I've only barely mastered the first move. I'm afraid I can't use 10% of the power of this move. If I can use 20 to 30% of the power of this whip skill, you definitely won't be able to defeat my whip skill so easily, Lung Rushuang said. Of course, the whip skill created by a supreme being is not simple. Jian Wushuang smiled. During the past 800 years, Lung Rushuang had been cultivating under the guidance of Lord Wu, and Jian Wushuang had seen it with his own eyes. He had witnessed Lung Rushuang's strength increase step by step. The whip skill that Lung Rushuang had just displayed was also taught by Lord Wu, and it was a complete secret skill of the whip skill created by Lord Wu himself. It was extremely powerful, even though Lung Rushuang could barely display less than 10% of the first move's power. It was already very impressive. Shuang-er, I just saw that your whip skill not only contains 3 principles that have been completely fused together, but it also seems to have a 4th principle? Jian Wushuang suddenly asked. Yes. Lung Rushuang nodded. Under the guidance of Master, I have now completely comprehended and fused four principles. As for the fourth rule, I have already comprehended more than half of it. It won't take long for me to completely comprehend it. After fully comprehending it, it should be relatively easy to fuse it. According to Master, I should be able to break through to become a ruler in at most 2,000 years. The corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth twitched at Lung Rushuang's words. Although he had heard from Lord Wu that Lung Rushuang, who had absorbed the astral heart, had amazing potential and could easily become a ruler, Jian Wushuang did not expect it to be so easy. In just 800 years, Lung Rushuang, who had just entered the Principal's Master level, had reached the top of the Principal's Master level. She could immediately comprehend the fourth principles and become a ruler in at most 2,000 years. After all, he had been a Principal's Master for so many years, but he was still far from becoming a ruler. After all, it was very difficult to merge the four principles. Shuang-er, I'm afraid you'll become a ruler before me, Jian Wushuang said with a sigh. So what if I become a ruler first? Master said that even if I break through to become a ruler, I won't be as strong as you. You've already comprehended a trace of universe principle, Lung Rushuang said. Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. Of course, I'm not weak now. According to Master, although I'm only a Principal's Master now, my combat strength is no weaker than a first-level primary ruler with the secret skills and skills that Master taught me. If I fight with all my might, I can even fight against a first-level advanced ruler, Lung Rushuang added. Jian Wushuang was not surprised to hear that. There was a huge gap between a Principal's Master and a ruler, but it was not impossible to make up for it. Not to mention Jian Wushuang himself, the Bloodslaughter Emperor whom he had met before was the #1 Principal's Master in the star area before he rose to power. His battle strength was indeed very strong, so he could unleash his full strength. She could also rival a primary ruler. The Bloodslaughter Emperor did not have much opportunity or inheritance to possess such battle strength. On the other hand, Lung Rushuang had first absorbed a supreme treasure like the astral heart, and secondly, she was a personal disciple of a supreme master. Lord Wu had carefully taught her various secret skills and divine abilities for 800 years. How could her battle strength not be strong? It was a pity that Lung Rushuang had only recovered her divine body for a short time, so her understanding of Tao and battle experience were still lacking. Otherwise, her battle strength would have been even stronger. Disciple Jian Wushuang, come here. Lord Wu's voice suddenly sounded. Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang held hands and came to the altar of the third heaven together. Lord Wu was already waiting there. It's been 800 years. I've taught you everything I can in these 800 years. Now it's up to you. Lord Wu looked at Lung Rushuang with a gentle gaze. After all, she was his disciple and a true disciple. Lord Wu treated Lung Rushuang much better than Jian Wushuang. Master! Lung Rushuang raised her head and glanced at Lord Wu. Lord Wu ignored her and said, Little guy, you can take your wife and leave now. Thank you for your teaching all these years, Senior, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. You're welcome. I just want to leave a legacy for myself. Lord Wu waved his hand. Senior, I'm actually very curious. Why don't you leave? With your strength, the Red Cloud world shouldn't be able to stop you if you want to leave. Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, Leave? Lord Wu was stunned, but then he shook his head and said, Do you think I don't want to leave? I just can't do it. Why? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Little guy, you might not know how terrible the battle was. Even Master, who was so powerful, died. I was a general under Master, and I also participated in that battle. Lord Wu's voice was low. Master died, and I was struck by the aftershock of the 100-battle fiend ancestor. Although I didn't die, I suffered an unprecedented heavy blow. In the end, I had to flee back to the Red Cloud world and borrow its power to survive. However, I couldn't have been more miserable. All these years, my divine body had been relying on the Red Cloud world to barely survive. That was why I didn't collapse on the spot. Once I left the Red Cloud world, my divine body would immediately collapse, and I would die immediately. Is that so? Jian Wushuang suddenly realized. He had been wondering why Lord Wu had stayed in the Red Cloud world for so long. "Little guy, before you leave, there is one more thing," Lord Wu suddenly said. Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang could not help looking at Lord Wu. When Master was alive, he was very powerful. He established a huge divine kingdom and occupied a vast territory. He had countless people under his command. If the divine kingdom was huge, there would be some evil people. There used to be many evil people in the divine kingdom. For their own benefit, they would do anything to stir up trouble in the divine kingdom. Once these villains were discovered, many of them were killed immediately. However, there were also many who were imprisoned. The place where these villains were imprisoned was known as the Eternal Dark Prison. The Eternal Dark Prison has existed for many years. Not long after Master opened the Divine Kingdom, the Eternal Dark Prison has always existed. When the Divine Kingdom was still around, there were often people who were imprisoned in the Eternal Dark Prison. In the future, unless there was an incredible performance in the Eternal Dark Prison that could attract the attention of the higher-ups of the Red Cloud faction, these prisoners were destined to be imprisoned in the Eternal Dark Prison for the rest of their lives. After so many years, I don't know how many prisoners are locked up in the Eternal Dark Prison. Jian Wushuang was puzzled. He did not understand why Lord Wu suddenly told him this. The Eternal Dark Prison is divided into 6 levels. The prisoners are imprisoned at different levels according to their strength. Everything was going according to plan, but after the battle, the Master died, the Red Cloud branch was destroyed, and the Divine Kingdom collapsed. Although the Eternal Dark Prison was not destroyed, its foundation was damaged and its power was greatly damaged. Most importantly, there was a flaw in the Eternal Dark Prison's array. Of course, this flaw only exists in the first level, and it's extremely hidden. Under normal circumstances, the prisoners in the first level of Eternal Darkness Prison would not be able to find this flaw, and they would not be able to escape from Eternal Darkness Prison through this flaw. However, 500 years ago, I sensed through the Red Cloud world that someone had used the flaw of Eternal Darkness Prison to create a crack in the first level of Eternal Darkness Prison. Although the Eternal Darkness Prison array quickly repaired this crack, during this time, there were prisoners who escaped from Eternal Darkness Prison. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Someone escaped? 500 years ago. He did not understand why Lord Wu suddenly told him this, but now he understood. All the prisoners in the Eternal Dark Prison had committed heinous crimes. They were not evil, but at least they were not good people. Moreover, they were imprisoned in the Eternal Dark Prison by the Red Cloud branch. They must be very strong. How could such prisoners escape? How many escaped? Jian Wushuang asked. The Red Cloud world is closely related to the Eternal Dark Prison. Now that I am in control of the Red Cloud world, I can barely sense that there is only one prisoner who escaped from the Eternal Dark Prison 500 years ago, and it's only the first level, Lord Wu said. Only one prisoner? That's better. Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief. If dozens or hundreds of prisoners escaped from the Eternal Dark Prison, the star field would be in trouble. Although there is only one prisoner, don't underestimate him, Lord Wu said seriously. The Eternal Dark Prison exists not only to lock up prisoners, but also to select as many top experts among them as possible to serve the Red Cloud branch. Therefore, the weakest one who can be locked up in the Eternal Dark Prison is a ruler, and the strongest one is even a supreme being. What? There are supreme beings in the Eternal Dark Prison. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes, there are more than one supreme being in the 6th level of the Eternal Dark Prison, Lord Wu said with a smile. Of course, although the Eternal Dark Prison was damaged in the battle, its power is still there. Unless those supreme beings have a big breakthrough in their strength, they may be able to get out of the Eternal Dark Prison. However, the environment of the Eternal Dark Prison is very harsh. In such a harsh environment, it's almost impossible to reach the peak of Master's strength. And this time, the prisoners who escaped from the Eternal Prison are the prisoners on the 1st level. Of the 6 levels of the Eternal Prison, the prisoners on the 1st level are the weakest. Usually, the prisoners are 1st level or 2nd level overlords. However, it has been many years since a new prisoner has joined the Eternal Prison, and the battles there are extremely fierce. Those who can survive such a long time must be very powerful. I reckon that the prisoner who escaped this time is at least a master at the peak of the second level. He might even have broken through to the third level, Lord Wu said. At the very least, he is at the peak of the second level. He might even reach the third level. Jian Wushuang's face darkened slightly. Since he had comprehended a trace of the universe principle, his strength had soared. He did not need to care about an ordinary master at the second level. However, for a master at the peak of the second level, or even the third level, it was a great pressure. He could not bear the pressure. Husband, you don't have to worry too much. After all, not all the prisoners in the eternal dark prison are crazy. Perhaps the prisoners who escaped this time are those who don't kill indiscriminately. Moreover, this star field is at the edge of the universe. Usually, masters who have reached the second level will choose to leave here and explore other places in the universe. If this prisoner is so powerful, he won't stay in this star field for long, Lung Rushuang said. Well, that's true. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. I'm telling you this just to remind you. Besides, Jian Wushuang, you've always wanted to improve your strength, but it's hard to meet a decent opponent in this star field. Now you have an opponent, Lord Wu said with a smile. An opponent? Is it that prisoner? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Of course, he's not the only one. There are countless prisoners in the eternal dark prison, Lord Wu said. Jian Wushuang was stunned. But then he looked at Lord Wu in shock. Lord Wu, are you asking me to explore the eternal dark prison? Why? Are you afraid? Lord Wu looked at Jian Wushuang with interest. Jian Wushuang was not afraid. He was just scared. Jian Wushuang knew the origin of eternal dark prison from Lord Wu. He knew what kind of place eternal dark prison was. Think about it, countless prisoners were locked in there and never saw the light of day. Many years had passed. Even if the prisoners were not crazy, they would have become crazy. Moreover, those prisoners were all very strong. Even the weakest one on the first level was an expert at the peak of the second level. Any one of them was enough to make him treat them seriously. However, what Lord Wu said made sense. He could not find a match in this star field, but he could not leave the star field for the time being. If he wanted to continue to improve his strength and challenge new experts, Eternal Dark Prison was indeed a good choice. Although Eternal Dark Prison imprisoned some crazy people who had committed heinous crimes, there is no doubt that they are all experts. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. There was also a trace of excitement. Yes, he was tempted. He was eager to fight with experts, and the Eternal Dark Prison could completely satisfy his requirements. Little guy, I was right. You are a belligerent person and have the heart of an expert. Even though you know that the Eternal Dark Prison is extremely dangerous, you still want to explore it, Lord Wu said with a smile. Jian Wushuang also smiled. Husband. Lung Rushuang frowned. She also knew what kind of place the Eternal Dark Prison was, so she naturally did not want Jian Wushuang to go there and take risks. Haha, my disciple. Don't worry. Anyone in this star field, including you, will die in the Eternal Dark Prison, even if you go to the first level. But for this little guy, his life is not in danger, Lord Wu said with a smile. Why? Jian Wushuang did not understand. Lord Wu immediately explained. The Eternal Dark Prison was created by the Red Cloud Branch. The Red Cloud Branch has absolute power in the Eternal Dark Prison. As long as an expert or a disciple of the Red Cloud Branch enters the Eternal Dark Prison, they will be protected by the Eternal Dark Prison formation. Little guy, didn't I give you a token of an inner disciple of the Red Cloud Branch? With this token, you can mobilize part of the power of the formation in the Eternal Secret Language. Not to mention the masters on the first level who are at the top of the second or third level, you can easily suppress even the ultimate masters on the fifth level. Is there such a thing? Jian Wushuang was worried, and Lung Rushuang was also surprised. Lung Rushuang was worried that Jian Wushuang's life would be in danger after entering the Eternal Dark Prison, but she did not expect Jian Wushuang, an inner disciple of the Red Cloud Branch, to have such a privilege in the Eternal Dark Prison. If he could mobilize part of the power of the formation, he could do whatever he wanted in the Eternal Dark Prison. Of course, the reason why you went to the Eternal Dark Prison is to gain experience and improve your strength. If you didn't encounter a life or death crisis, You'd better not mobilize the power of the array so easily, Lord Wu said. Of course, if I mobilize the power of the array to suppress a random prisoner, there would be no experience effect, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. I will only use this move at the last moment. In addition, I can use this move not only to save my life, but also to find a way to gain something else. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He already had some other ideas in his mind. For example, if he went to the Eternal Dark Prison and recruited a few prisoners as servants, the weakest of the prisoners in the Eternal Dark Prison would be at the level of a master at the peak of the second level. If he brought a few of them out, it would definitely be a huge improvement for the upper echelons of the divine beginning realm. Of course, it would not be so easy to get the prisoners to submit to him. All right, I've said what I need to say. You can leave now. Lord Wu waved his hand. I'll take my leave. I'll take my leave. Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang bowed together and then left the Red Cloud world together. Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang were flying side by side on Crimson Stone Mountain. Is this the universe battlefield? I feel that it is indeed extraordinary. Many places give me an extremely dangerous feeling. Leng Rushuang could not help sighing along the way. The Red Cloud world that she was in before was also in the universe battlefield, but it was an independent space after all. It was completely different from walking around in the universe battlefield. Shuang after we leave Crimson Stone Mountain, we'll go back to Star Palace first. Then we'll go back to our hometown together, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Leng Rushuang nodded with a smile. Suddenly, what? Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Leng Rushuang looked at him with confusion. Shuang come with me first. Jian Wushuang changed the direction and rushed toward the void to the side. Leng Rushuang followed him, although she was puzzled. On a blood rock, a black-clothed man with a faint light around him was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was doing. Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang had already appeared in the void around the black-clothed man. The latter was not far behind. In terms of strength, Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang were both very strong. Ordinary rulers could not sense the aura that Jian Wushuang had learned from the Devil Flame, and Leng Rushuang's concealment secret skill was created by Supreme Fog. Moreover, the black-robed man was just a principal's master at the peak of the sixth realm, so of course, he would not be able to discover their existence. Husband, do you know this person? Leng Rushuang asked. Of course I know him. Once upon a time, he led many principals masters of the three saint realms and almost forced me into a desperate situation. Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course he knew the man in black on the bloodstone below. Star River Master was a principal's master from the three saint realms. When he was on the Saha Island, he was surrounded and killed by the three saint realms. When the three saint realm masters did not show up, Star River Master was the strongest among the three saint realms at that time. He was already at the sixth realm of the Void Realm. Even Bai Xing, the deputy temple master of the Temporal Temple, was barely suppressed by him. Now, he had already destroyed the three saint realms and killed the three masters of the saint realm. However, Star River Master was still alive. It seems that the extermination of the three saint realms was not thorough enough. There are still many who escaped. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but his smile was unusually cold and contained killing intent. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang appeared directly. Star River Master had been living a miserable life these years. It was normal that the three saint realms had been destroyed. Although he had left the divine beginning realm and escaped to the universe battlefield, he had become a stray dog since then. Now, Jian Wushuang was too famous in this star field, and his power had been constantly rising. Even the strength of Star Palace had improved a lot. Over the years, Star Palace had not forgotten to hunt down the three saint realms. This led to him being at the peak of the sixth realm, but no force in this star field was willing to take him in. After all, no one wanted to provoke Jian Wushuang or Star Palace. Star Palace had no choice but to travel in the universe battlefield and improve his strength as much as possible. However, he still had to be careful. Once his whereabouts were exposed, Star Palace would send experts to kill him. Star Palace would very likely send great beings to kill him. Who? Letting out a soft breath, Star River Master opened his eyes. Although this Crimson Stone Mountain contains a large amount of fortuitous opportunities, it requires a considerable amount of luck and power to obtain them. I've roamed the depths of Crimson Stone Mountain for so many years, and I've just barely managed to obtain some benefits, allowing my power to improve by a bit. However, I'm still far from reaching the pinnacle of the 6th level, much less becoming a ruler. Star River Master shook his head inwardly. Crimson Stone Mountain was indeed a land of treasures, and it contained many great opportunities. However, not everyone could obtain these great opportunities. At the very least, Star River Master did not have such luck. Zijun and Long Yang, Star River Master muttered. Both of them are planning to leave the star field and head to other places to explore. It seems that I am also considering leaving. It was rare for Principal's Masters to head to other star fields to explore. After all, the universe void space was too long, and it was extremely dangerous. Principal's Masters who wandered in the universe void space would easily get lost, and it was very easy for them to fall. However, Star River Master and the others had no choice because it was difficult for them to stay in this star field. Even if they could barely stay here, they were always on the edge of their wits. When they heard that Jian Wushuang had entered the dark magic region, they were overjoyed. They thought that Jian Wushuang would die there, so there was no need for them to leave. But in the end, Jian Wushuang unexpectedly survived the dark magic region. Even the dark magic region had failed to kill Jian Wushuang. Star River Master knew that Jian Wushuang would not die. Therefore, those who had escaped from the 3 Saint Realms, including Star River Master, were ready to leave the star region. Suddenly, 2 figures appeared in front of Star River Master without any warning. Star River Master raised his head subconsciously. When he saw Jian Wushuang carrying a divine sword among the 2 figures, his face turned pale. Star River Master, long time no see. How are you? Jian Wushuang's voice was cold with a hint of mockery. Blood Sword Master? No, Heavenly Sword Marquis. Star River Master was terrified. How is it possible? How did you know I was here? How did you find me? Of course I didn't know you were here, but you're unlucky. I've been wandering around Crimson Stone Mountain for years, and I happened to pass by, so I sensed your soul aura, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Unlucky? Star River Master's eyes widened, and his whole body collapsed. His eyes were lifeless, and his face was full of despair. He knew that since Jian Wushuang had appeared in front of him, he would not be able to escape no matter what he did. Star River Master, when you led the Principal's Masters of the 3 Saint Realms to kill me on the Saha Island, I've always remembered your hatred. However, things are different now and I don't want to bully you. How about this? My wife has just broken through to Principal's Master not long ago. I'll ask her to help you. If you can survive her, I'll let you go, Jian Wushuang said. Upon hearing this, Star River Master, who had been in despair, suddenly raised his head, his eyes shining brightly. Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you serious? Star River Master could not help glancing at Lung Rushuang beside him. However, Lung Rushuang had completely restrained her aura. He could not tell whether she was serious or not, but he could tell that she had just entered the human realm not long ago. I'll keep my word, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. He looked at Lung Rushuang and said, Shuang-er, it's up to you. The reason why he asked Lung Rushuang to fight was because Lord Wu had told her to gain more experience in the Red Cloud world in the future. After all, the path of an expert was destined to be filled with bloodshed. Lung Rushuang had absorbed the heart of the astral world, so she had the capital and potential to become an expert. However, she also needed to be tempered. However, Jian Wushuang took into account that Lung Rushuang had just mastered the strength and her soul had been asleep for nearly 200,000 years. Could be said that she had a lot of experience in fighting with experts. Therefore, Jian Wushuang naturally could not challenge her to a too strong opponent at the very beginning. The battle strength of the Star River Master in front of her was only at the peak of the 6th realm. It was just enough for her to be the first opponent to be tempered. Lung Rushuang knew Jian Wushuang's intention, so she did not refuse him. Instead, she walked forward and took out the dark green whip. I'll only use one whip. If you don't die after one whip, you can leave. Lung Rushuang's face was cold. She had a cold temperament like a glacier. Jian Wushuang was the only one in the world who could fuse with it. When faced with others, Lung Rushuang was almost always cold. Whip! Star River Master laughed, which hid his surprise. He was laughing at the arrogance of the woman in front of him. Although he only had battle strength at the peak of the 6th realm, his life-saving ability was not bad. Other than Jian Wushuang, Blood Slaughter Emperor, and a few other heaven-defying existences among the Principal's Masters, it was impossible for other Principal's Masters, even some extremely terrifying experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm, to kill him in one move. Lung Rushuang was too lazy to say anything. She waved the dark green whip in her hand. A special intent spread out. In an instant, the Master of Star River felt that he had fallen into the vast ocean, and the surrounding area was a tsunami formed by layers of crazy waves. Its power was earth-shaking, and it charged toward him. How is this possible? Star River Master's expression changed drastically. The tsunami rushed toward him, and he used all of his skills to try to resist it. However, the first impact had severely injured his godly body. The second impact had shattered the true treasure armor on his body. The third impact had completely destroyed his godly body, and all of his godly power had been annihilated. No! Heavenly Sword Marquis, you lied to me. There's no way she just broke through to become a Principal's Master not long ago. There's no way. After his hysterical screaming, the Star River Master died. Hearing the final roar of Star River Master, Jian Wushuang shook his head lightly. I didn't lie to him. Shuang has only been a Principal's Master for 800 years. It's just that she has been taught by a Supreme Being for the past 800 years. After killing Star River Master with a whip, Lung Rushuang casually took away Star River Master's interspatial ring and returned to Jian Wushuang's side. She said, "Next time, if you want me to train, you must find me a stronger opponent." Jian Wushuang smiled and asked, Shuang, how many layers of waves did your whip create? He had experienced the power of Lung Rushuang's whip before. Waves after waves of tsunamis came at him one after another. It was indeed very powerful. Star River Master had only endured 3 waves of tsunamis before he died. If Master had used this whip, the tsunami would have never stopped. Unless I break the spell with force, the tsunami would have continued to attack. But now I have barely mastered this move. Even if I use my full strength, I can only use the 9th impact at most, Lung Rushuang said. The 9th impact is not bad. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. 3 strikes easily killed Star River Master, who was at the peak of the 6 realms. 9 strikes were enough to rival an ordinary ruler. Killing Star River Master was just a side trip. Cultivators at Star River Master's level, as well as those who escaped from the 3 Saint Realms, were no longer worthy of Jian Wushuang's attention. After that, Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang moved forward. Soon, they left Crimson Stone Mountain and returned to Star Palace. This is Star Palace? Lung Rushuang and Jian Wushuang walked side by side, looking around. There were many cultivators in Star Palace, and they met many people along the way. Blood Sword Master. Greetings, Blood Sword Master. The Principal's Masters in Star Palace bowed to Jian Wushuang in awe. After all, everyone knew that Jian Wushuang had the battle strength of a superior ruler and had survived the dark magic region. He was definitely one of the strongest people in the star field. The Star Palace had benefited a lot from the presence of such a super expert. Of course, they were in awe of him. Jian Wushuang took Lung Rushuang to see Taoist Shen God and the others. In the Grand Hall, Jian Wushuang met with Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Divine Ancestor. My young friend, is this your wife? Taoist Shen God asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Greetings, everyone. Lung Rushuang greeted them, but she was much colder than Jian Wushuang. Haha. My young friend, congratulations, Temporal Temple Master said with a smile. He knew very well that Jian Wushuang had been trying to awaken his aura and soul and restore his wife's divine body, but now he had achieved his goal. Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly, then he said seriously, Everyone, when I came back this time, I found that the number of principals masters in my star palace is much more than before, and the security seems to be much stricter than before. It's like this. Taoist Shen God nodded. First of all, because of you, our star palace's status in this star field has improved significantly. Over the years, many principals masters have come to our star palace voluntarily. Most of our star palace did not refuse, so naturally, the number of principals masters has increased. Now, there are more than 1,000 principals masters under our star palace. Thousands of principals masters? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Although there were many principals masters in the star area, they were extremely scattered. The main reason was that there were too many Lone Rangers, and there were also many different forces. There were over 1,000 principals masters in this star area. That was not bad. But of course, the increase in the number of Lords of the Edicts is only one of the reasons. The most important reason is that in recent years, some unforeseen events have occurred in this star field. It hasn't been very peaceful. Just to be on the safe side, I've summoned back quite a few of the Lords of the Edicts who have been adventuring in the 3 great battlefields of my star palace. Taoist Shen God said. There have been changes? Jian Wushuang was moved, and he already had a guess in his heart. It's like this, Taoist Shen God explained. 500 years ago, an expert suddenly appeared in this star field. He called himself Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. My star palace specially went to collect information about this Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, but we didn't find any information about him. Therefore, we guessed that this Demon Monarch Ancient Knight came from another star field. Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang looked at each other, but neither of them said anything. They knew very well that since this Demon Monarch Ancient Knight suddenly appeared 500 years ago, he was most likely the prisoner who had escaped from the Eternal Dark Prison. This Demon Monarch Ancient Knight is very strong, very powerful, and extremely overbearing. After he appeared, he immediately swept through this star field. The first place he went to was the North Sea Palace. After arriving there, he directly commanded the North Sea Palace to submit to him in a strong manner. Naturally, the North Sea Palace would not agree, Taoist Shen God said. The North Sea Palace is one of the top 3 forces in the star field with the Sky Rock ruler. Jian Wushuang nodded. What happened? The North Sea Palace was wiped out by him alone. Even the Sky Rock ruler was killed by Demon Monarch Ancient Knight in one move, Taoist Shen God said. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He was not surprised that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight could destroy the North Sea Palace, but to kill the Sky Rock ruler in one move. He had fought with the Sky Rock ruler before. Although the latter was not a second-level ruler, he was definitely at the top among the first-level rulers. Moreover, he had the protection of the Supreme True Treasure armor. His body protection ability should not be weak. How could he be killed in one move? It is very likely that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's battle strength has reached the 3rd level, Jian Wushuang thought. The news of the destruction of the North Sea Palace and the death of Sky Rock ruler has shocked the entire star field. After that, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight continued to sweep through the star field. Now, almost all the major forces in the star field have chosen to submit to him. As for our star palace, although you are here, it has only been a short time since it rose to power. It is not a top major force in this star field. It seems that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight does not like us, so he did not come to us. Right now, this Demon Monarch Ancient Knight has established the Ancient Knight Demon Palace in the former North Sea Palace's lair, and has become the publicly acknowledged #1 faction in this star field. His power is unparalleled, and no other faction can contend against him. Ancient Knight Demon Palace? Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. In addition, 100 years ago, ruler Kuan-Yu, who was regarded as the strongest expert in this star field, fought with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Taoist Shen God continued. Ruler Kuan-Yu? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Ruler Kuan-Yu was able to pass the test at the foot of Heaven-Treading Mountain. His battle strength was extremely strong even among the second-level primary rulers. Previously, without Jian Wushuang's help, Ruler Kuan-Yu was indeed qualified to be known as the strongest in this star field. What was the result? Jian Wushuang asked. Ruler Kuan-Yu was defeated, and it was still a crushing defeat. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight also used only one move to severely injure Ruler Kuan-Yu and used up more than half of his divine power. Ruler Kuan-Yu was so frightened that he immediately used his life-saving trump card to escape, which saved his life, Taoist Xian God said. Emperor Kuan-Yu was much luckier than Sky Rock Ruler. At least he escaped, but Sky Rock Ruler was killed in one move, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Fortunately, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight has no intention of finding trouble with us. Let's not provoke him. Well, that's what we all think. Ancient Knight Demon Palace is now powerful, and all the major forces in the star field submit to them. However, Ancient Knight Demon Palace doesn't care about us, which are neither big nor small. As long as we don't provoke them, they probably won't come to deal with us, Taoist Xian God said with a smile. Let's not talk about that for now. I brought some special treasures back from the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. The eyes of Taoist Xian God, Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Divine Ancestor all lit up. The last time Jian Wushuang came back from the Red Cloud world, he gave them a huge surprise. There were 100 supreme treasures and 100,000 supreme treasures. Took them a long time to digest the surprise. What good treasures did Jian Wushuang bring out from the Red Cloud world? Please take a look. Jian Wushuang flipped his palm and a mini three-colored tower appeared in his hand. The three-colored tower emitted an extremely strange aura, which attracted the eyes of the four rulers. What is this? The strongest supreme treasure. What a unique aura. It seems to be even more extraordinary than the aura of an ordinary supreme treasure. My young friend, what is this tower? The four rulers looked at Jian Wushuang. For of you, this tower is called the three-layered Tao Realm. It's a law supreme treasure, Jian Wushuang said. A principal supreme treasure? Taoist Xian God's eyes widened. A principal supreme treasure that is said to be above the strongest supreme treasure? I've heard of a principal supreme treasure. It's said to contain the principles of the universe, and its power is dozens or hundreds of times stronger than the most powerful supreme treasure. The Heaven Suppression Tablet that Xian Yi obtained seems to be a principal supreme treasure. Temporal Temple Master was excited. They did not expect that Jian Wushuang would bring a principal supreme treasure from the Red Cloud world. Ladies and gentlemen, this tricolor tower is indeed a rule supreme treasure, but its real use is very unique. It has 3 different worlds, and each of them is very useful to cultivators. Jian Wushuang immediately explained the use of the three-layered Tao realm in more detail. After hearing Jian Wushuang's explanation, the 4 rulers were stunned. To be exact, they were stunned by the sudden surprise of the Tathagata. A top-tier saint will most likely break through to become a principles master after cultivating in the first level of the Tao realm for a period of time. Principles masters can gradually cultivate to the pinnacle of principles masters in the second level of the Tao realm. Among the 100 principles masters, 2 to 3 will eventually become rulers. How is this possible? The 4 rulers were completely stunned. The effect of the 3-layered Tao realm was really too incredible in their eyes. My young friend, is the 3-layered Tao realm really as effective as you said? Taoist Xian God looked at Jian Wushuang nervously. Of course he was nervous, because if this was true, it would be a huge opportunity for the Divine Beginning Realm. The entire Divine Beginning Realm could be greatly affected by the Triple Tao Realm, and their strength would increase by many times. Of course it's true. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. He was not surprised by the reaction of the 4 rulers. After all, when he first saw the Triple Tao Realm and heard from Lord Wu about its effects, his mind was also in a daze. The reason why he had chosen the 3-layered Tao realm for the last time was because it was of great use to the Divine Beginning Realm. This is great. This is great. Great fortune. This is definitely an unprecedented great fortune for our Divine Beginning Realm. Countless cultivators in our Divine Beginning Realm can use the 3-layered Tao realm to make a huge leap in their strength. Naturally, the overall strength of our Divine Beginning Realm will also increase explosively. When that time comes, when we face the army of Devil Cloud Planet, our chances of success will be much, much greater. My young friend, you have brought great treasures to the Divine Beginning Realm. The four rulers were amazed. They still had not come back to their senses. Jian Wushuang had brought back treasures from the Red Cloud world twice. The first time, he had brought back 100 supreme true treasures and 100,000 pinnacle true treasures, which had already made them ecstatic. This time, although he had only brought back one treasure, it was a law true treasure, and its function was, it was much more powerful than the supreme true treasures and pinnacle true treasures they had brought back before. After all, true treasures could only increase a cultivator's combat power externally, but they could not change the strength of the cultivator. However, three-layered Tao realms were different. They could allow a cultivator to comprehend and integrate more principles of heaven and earth, which could greatly increase a cultivator's own power, or even make a breakthrough. These three-layered Tao realms were far more important than over 1,000 supreme treasures. After a long while, the four rulers finally managed to calm down. Since the three-layered Tao realms have such an inconceivable effect on the cultivator, then we need to make a good plan, Taoist Black God said solemnly. I suggest that we don't use the three-layered Tao realms in a hurry for the sake of the entire divine beginning realm. Instead, we should first select some elites from the divine beginning realm and send them into the three-layered Tao realms to train. We will see the actual results of their training, and then we will begin to arrange for the second batch of people to enter, the Temporal Temple Master said. Right? Let's keep this matter a secret for now. For the time being, we will select a few trustworthy people to enter the three-layered Tao realm. For example, we will first select a portion of the cultivators from our three great freedom alliances, as well as those from the Seven-Star Profound Sect and the Star Palace, said the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. Yes, the four rulers all nodded. If they made a big fuss at the beginning, it would shake the entire divine beginning realm. They were not sure about the specific effects of the three stages of the Tao realm, so they had to take it step by step. It was best to arrange a group of trustworthy people to cultivate in the three stages. For of you, the first two levels of the three-layered Tao realm are for saints and principles masters to cultivate. However, the third layer of the Tao realm is very helpful to rulers. If you have time, you can go to the third layer of the Tao realm to cultivate, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Of course. We can't wait to experience the magic of the three-layered Tao realm. The eyes of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master sparkled. My young friend, are you going to stay in the Star Palace or not? Taoist Shen God asked. My wife has just recovered, so I'm going to take her back to her hometown. I'll stay in the divine beginning realm for a while. If anything happens in the Star Palace, you can send me a message at any time. I'll be there as soon as possible, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Taoist Shen God and the other three nodded. Jian Wushuang was definitely the strongest in the Star Palace, but the four of them were not weak together. In addition to the supreme treasures that Jian Wushuang had just used, they would not be afraid even if they encountered a superior ruler in this star field, unless Demon Monarch Ancient Knight came to kill them personally. The Star Palace would not be afraid. However, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight clearly had no appetite for their small Star Palace. Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang soon returned to the divine beginning realm. Eternal Sacred World. Most of the experts from the Eternal Chaotic World were gathered in the Eternal Sacred World, with the Eternal Sacred World as the foundation and a large amount of resources left by Jian Wushuang as protection. The overall strength of the Eternal Chaotic World had been increasing rapidly over the years. However, the strongest emperor in the Eternal Chaotic World was only in the Chaos Realm. He was pitifully weak in the Divine Beginning Realm even after tens of thousands of years of growth. Jian Nantian, who was the strongest in the Eternal Chaotic World, and Jian Wushuang's father, had just reached the saint level. Jian Wushuang returned with Lung Rushuang. He immediately saw Emperor Shao and Emperor Tang. Father! Lung Rushuang looked at Emperor Shao with tears in her eyes. Shuang-er, it's you? Is it really you? Emperor Zhao's body trembled. It had been many years since Lung Rushuang had left. It was nearly 20 million years in the Eternal Chaotic World. Jian Wushuang had always said that he would bring Lung Rushuang back, but Emperor Shao had given up hope. Now his daughter had come back. Grandmaster. Lung Rushuang bowed slightly to Emperor Tang. Haha. It's good that you're back. Emperor Tang smiled. Jian Wushuang, who was watching quietly, felt relieved. Not long after, Jian Wushuang brought Lung Rushuang to his parents. Jian Nantian, Ji Wuming, Zhui Yunfeng, Luo Xinqin, and several of Jian Wushuang's close relatives and friends were sitting there. The whole family was sitting there, looking at Leng Rushuang. It was their first time seeing Leng Rushuang. Father-in-law, mother-in-law. Leng Rushuang also bowed to them. Is she our daughter-in-law? Luo Xinqin looked Leng Rushuang up and down and smiled. Sister Xinqin, look, Shuanger has good taste. Ji Wuming also smiled. They were both Jian Wushuang's mothers. They had met each other before, and there was no estrangement between them. They called each other sisters. Soon, Leng Rushuang blended into the family. The family had a good time for a few days, and then Jian Wushuang took Leng Rushuang to the eternal chaotic world. In the green fire world, Shuanger, look, there is the imperial city of the Tang dynasty. Jian Wushuang pointed to the huge city below and said with a smile, the imperial city has changed. Leng Rushuang also smiled faintly. Of course, after all, many years have passed. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, it had been nearly 200,000 years in the divine beginning realm and 20 million years in the eternal chaotic world. Of course, many changes had occurred during these 20 million years. However, Jian Wushuang's shadow had always been behind the Tang dynasty, so it had been extremely powerful for so many years. Shuanger, let's walk around. Jian Wushuang held Leng Rushuang's hand and walked into the imperial city of the Tang dynasty. In the following time, Jian Wushuang and Leng Rushuang lived together in the green fire world for a long time. They went to various places that Jian Wushuang had once roamed and even went to the eternal chaotic world to travel. They crossed mountains and rivers and traveled to the ends of the earth. After so many years, Jian Wushuang finally reunited with his aura. Of course, he had to spend time with his wife. After all, he owed Leng Rushuang too much. After living in the eternal chaotic world for a period of time, they returned to the divine beginning realm and continued to play. During this period of time, Leng Rushuang had fused 4 rules. She became a ruler. Finally, they stopped traveling. Instead, they found a quiet place and settled down. Wu Tan's secret realm was a natural secret realm that existed in the divine beginning realm. Because the secret realm was relatively vast and contained a certain amount of resources during this period, after the secret realm was discovered, it attracted a lot of competition. In the end, this secret realm fell into the hands of a principal's master. This principal's master was the Wu Tan master. After that, the secret realm ordered under the name of the Wu Tan master. Countless cultivators in the secret realm worshipped the Wu Tan master and treated him as a godlike existence. Wu Tan Palace was also recognized as the #1 force in the entire Wu Tan secret realm. It was extremely aloof. In a relatively remote city in the Wu Tan secret realm, there was a sword dojo called the Heavenly Sword Marquee Dojo. The person who created this sword dojo was a couple. They had been teaching some young people sword techniques in the sword dojo. It had been nearly 50 years. Under the old tree of the sword school, a middle-aged man in black sat upright, holding a yellowed book in his hand. He was casually flipping through it. Teacher, this month, I've started to practice the thunder and fire sword technique according to my teacher's instructions. After practicing for a whole month, I've barely mastered the thunder and fire sword technique. However, when I actually performed it, I felt that something was wrong, said a young man who looked to be only 16 or 17 years old. A youth with a hint of childishness on his face frowned as he spoke. The middle-aged man put down the book in his hand and said, "Show me the thunder and fire sword technique." Yes. The youth immediately began to practice the sword technique. Following the practice of the sword technique, the middle-aged man could not help but shake his head after only 2 sword moves. "Stop," the middle-aged man said. The youth immediately stopped the sword technique in his hand. "You just told me that you've barely mastered the thunder and fire sword technique, but now it seems that you're still far from mastering it. You haven't even reached the most basic level," the middle-aged man said in a deep voice. "I've told you before that sword techniques are not based on one's ability, but on one's intention. Why does the thunder and fire sword technique have to be named after the thunder and fire sword technique? It has the swiftness and fierceness of thunder and fire in it, but the sword technique you just displayed is as gentle as a girl's. You still dare to say that you've mastered it?" Ah! The youth's eyes widened. and his heart suddenly became clear. No wonder he had always felt that there was something wrong with his swordsmanship. So that was how it was. Remember, what kind of person is suitable to cultivate what kind of swordsmanship. As a man, I saw that your nature was like a raging fire, so I let you cultivate this thunder and fire swordsmanship, but you actually cultivated it to this extent? I'll give you another month. If you still can't master this thunder and fire swordsmanship within this 1 month, there's no need to come to the sword school again, the middle-aged man said. Yes, teacher. The youth immediately turned around and left. Husband, aren't you a little too strict with this little guy? A beautiful woman in a plain robe walked to the side of the middle-aged man and sat down. Master Yen is a good disciple. This little guy has some talent in swordsmanship. As long as he is taught a little, he will be able to do well in this secret realm. The middle-aged man smiled. That was right. The middle-aged man and the beautiful woman in a plain robe were Jian Wushuang and his wife, Lang Rushuang. The two of them had traveled in the divine beginning realm for more than 3,000 years before they settled down in the Wu-Tan secret realm. As for the sword mansion, Jian Wushuang had nothing better to do. Eh? Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He smiled and said, 30 years ago, the little guy who bore a deep grudge came back. Oh! Lang Rushuang's soul power also spread out. Then she smiled faintly and said, Husband, didn't you think highly of the little guy? And you secretly taught him some more advanced swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang opened the sword mansion and treated almost all the disciples who came to the sword mansion equally. The swordsmanship of the sword principle was only the most basic, and any disciple in the sword mansion could learn it. But 30 years ago, he gave the little guy a special lesson and taught him some more advanced swordsmanship. Of course, the so-called more advanced swordsmanship was actually trash in Jian Wushuang's eyes. But for the little guys in the sword mansion who were only in the chaos realm and the divine demon realm, it was very extraordinary. That little fellow has some talent in swordsmanship. Under my guidance, his strength improved very quickly. However, after he broke through to the divine master realm, he left without saying goodbye. Now that he has returned, it seems that he has taken revenge. As for his strength, he has reached the level of great divine master, which is not bad. Jian Wushuang smiled. While they were talking, a young man wearing a bamboo hat came to the entrance of the sword mansion. Jian Wushuang asked someone to call the young man in. Teacher. The young man's voice was a bit hoarse. Hu Yang. Do you still have me as your teacher in your eyes? Jian Wushuang looked at the young man indifferently. Hu Yang was the young man's name. I know my mistake. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I only hope that I can stay by your side in my lifetime, Hu Yang said respectfully. I have many disciples in the sword mansion, and I don't lack people. However, there are too many leaves falling from my yard, so I need someone to clean it up from time to time, Jian Wushuang said. Hu Yang was stunned, but he immediately reacted and said with surprise, Thank you, teacher. Well, you must have traveled a long way. Go to the backyard and clean up your house. Take a rest, Lang Rushuang said. Thank you, teacher's wife. Hu Yang immediately rushed to the backyard. After Hu Yang left, Jian Wushuang and Lang Rushuang looked at each other and smiled. You are sharp-tongued but soft-hearted. Lang Rushuang scolded with a smile. This little guy left without saying goodbye. As a teacher, how could I not punish him a little? Jian Wushuang said. The two chatted with each other, and the atmosphere was very warm. From then on, Hu Yang stayed in the courtyard every day, serving tea and cleaning up the dead leaves. Half a month later, whoosh, 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 several streams of light arrived at the gate of the sword mansion. Without any notice, they landed on the long wall in the center of the sword mansion. The disciples who were cultivating in the sword mansion stopped what they were doing and looked at the figures. Jian Wushuang also came to the drill ground. What brings you here? Jian Wushuang looked at the people in front of him calmly. Master, do you still remember me? Among them, an evil-looking young man in a golden robe stepped forward and said with a smile, It's you. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Of course I remember you. You came to my sword mansion more than 10 years ago, but in March, I saw that you were vicious and kicked you out of the sword mansion. From then on, you no longer have any relationship with the Sword Mansion. Jian Wushuang and his wife had established the Heavenly Sword Marquis Mansion for more than 50 years. During these 50 years, many young people came to the Sword Mansion to learn swordsmanship, and some of them were vermin and scum. The evil young man in front of him was the kind of evil person. After Jian Wushuang saw through him, he kicked him out of the Sword Mansion. Jian Wushuang was actually very kind to just kick him out without any other punishment. "It's me. I'm here today to introduce my new teacher to you," the golden-robed youth said and looked at a cold-looking elder with narrowed eyes. "You're the master of the Sword Mansion?" The cold-looking elder's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "Humph, I heard that you expelled my disciple from the Sword Mansion more than 10 years ago and humiliated him in various ways. As his teacher, I can't pretend that I don't know anything about it. Today, I'm going to seek justice for him. So help me." The disciples of the Sword Mansion immediately understood what the cold-faced elder said. It seemed that the golden-robed young man had been humiliated in the Sword Mansion more than 10 years ago. Now he had a new teacher and came back to flaunt his power. "Humph. If you want to fight with the teacher, you have to go through me first." With a cold humph, a figure directly stood in front of Jian Wushuang. It was Hu Yang, who had been serving Jian Wushuang tea and cleaning the courtyard for half a month. The moment Hu Yang appeared, the aura of the great deity swept out, causing waves of exclamations to ring out within the sword gallery. One had to know that the Wu-Tan was merely a heaven and earth secret realm. The strongest was the Wu-Tan master, and he was merely a principal master. Not to mention the Wu-Tan master, the strongest ones in the Wu-Tan secret realm were the true saints. However, there were not many true saints in the Wu-Tan secret realm. Any one of them was definitely a big shot. In this remote city in the Wu-Tan secret realm, the Divine Master was already an extremely terrifying expert. Divine Master? The golden-robed youth was startled, but when he thought of his teacher's strength, he immediately felt at ease. "I didn't expect that there would actually be a Divine Master in this small city?" The cold-looking old man narrowed his eyes and glanced at Hu Yang. But then he shook his head and said, "A mere Divine Master doesn't have the qualifications to be presumptuous in front of me." As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely powerful divine power aura swept out directly, sweeping through everything as easily as crushing dried twigs. Hu Yang's divine power aura was completely overshadowed and even defeated. True saint. Hu Yang turned pale with fright. While the many disciples in the Sword Club were shocked, they also became excited. Immortal saint. To these young disciples of the Sword Club, he was practically a legendary existence. They did not expect to see one today. "Haha, you see? This is my new teacher, Lord Zhu Yan." The golden-robed young man was very proud of his master. "Teacher, this man is the immortal saint. I'm no match for him." Hu Yang stood in front of Jian Wushuang and said softly, "Yes, I know." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Suddenly, he frowned and asked, "Is there trouble again?" Sure enough, in the void not far away, more than 10 streamers flew straight toward them. At first, they were just black spots, but in the blink of an eye, they had already appeared in the Sword Mansion. Moreover, these 10 figures were much more ostentatious than when the cold-faced elder and the gold-robed young man had entered the Sword Mansion. Although the cold-faced elder was a true saint and had entered the Sword Mansion without being notified, he had only revealed his divine power aura after entering the Sword Mansion. However, the 10 or so people who had just arrived could sense the monstrous aura emanating from their bodies from afar. The divine power aura was extremely powerful. To the people in the Sword Mansion, it was as if they were gods, causing them to tremble in fear. More than 10 figures appeared in front of the people in the Sword Mansion. True saints. All of them are true saints. This time, even the cold old man was shocked. He looked at the 10 or so people who suddenly appeared in shock. Not only that, their auras are very strong. They are much stronger than the strongest true saint I've ever seen. They are at least at the 6th or even 7th level. A 6th or 7th level true saint was definitely a super overlord in the Wu-Tan secret realm. It was not something a mere 1st level true saint could compare to. In front of the dozen or so people, the gloomy and cold elder, who had been extremely arrogant a moment ago, immediately became obedient. He stood there in awe and did not dare to say anything more. "Which one of you is Hu Yang?" The cold, godlike voice came from the purple-haired woman, who was the leader of the dozen or so people. The purple-haired woman's aura was also the strongest. Jian Wushuang could tell at a glance that she had already reached the level of a peak saint. "Are you here to find this little guy?" Jian Wushuang glanced at Hu Yang in front of him and already had a guess. Hu Yang had been carrying a deep-seated hatred since he was young. At first, he practiced swordsmanship in the Sword Mansion. After he became stronger, he left without saying goodbye. In the blink of an eye, he had returned after more than 30 years. Moreover, his expression was not as depressed as before. Obviously, he had taken revenge. However, although he had taken revenge, he was afraid that he had caused a lot of trouble. "Did you really find him?" Hu Yang sighed lightly with a trace of sadness on his face. "Hu Yang." The purple-clothed woman looked down at Hu Yang from above. "I am the 9th elder of the Wu Tan Palace. You killed a core disciple of the Wu Tan Palace. You have committed a heinous crime. I will bring you back to receive your punishment." The purple-clothed woman's voice shook the sky. Upon hearing her words, there was a commotion in the surroundings. "It's actually the Wu Tan Palace, and it's even the 9th elder personally making a move?" The gloomy and cold old man's voice was slightly shocked. As for the gold-robed young man beside him, he was so shocked that his body trembled. Wu Tan Palace was the publicly acknowledged strongest force in the Wu Tan secret realm, and its palace master was the god, the Wu Tan Master, who controlled the Wu Tan secret realm. Below the palace master was an elder. Any one of the Wu Tan Palace's elders was the top existence among the immortal saints, and their status was incomparably lofty. Any one of them would stomp their feet, and the entire Wu Tan secret realm would tremble. This person called Hu Yang actually dared to kill a core disciple of Wu Tan Palace, and even caused the Wu Tan Palace's elder to personally come and capture him? The gloomy and cold elder praised. Hu Yang's face was as still water. He raised his head and glanced at the purple-robed woman. He did not have any intention of resisting. "My lord, I am willing to go back with you. However, this matter has nothing to do with my teacher and the Sword Mansion. I hope that my lord will not be implicated. Our Wu Tan Palace has always been clear about our grudges. Since it was you who killed the person, naturally we will only look for you," the purple-robed woman said coldly. "Thank you." Hu Yang heaved a sigh of relief and prepared to leave with the purple-clothed woman. At this moment, "Wait!" a calm voice sounded from behind Hu Yang. Hu Yang subconsciously turned his head and saw his teacher, Jian Wushuang. "Teacher?" Hu Yang frowned. Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly. "Everyone in Wu Tan Palace, Hu Yang is my disciple. He made a mistake, so as his teacher I can't just let it go. How about this? I also know the Wu Tan Master Palace. I'll send someone to greet him, and this matter will end here." Jian Wushuang said it casually. However, everyone present was stunned when they heard it. Even the purple-clothed woman and the others from Wu Tan Palace were stunned. Did he know the palace Wu Tan Master Palace? Did he just send someone to greet him and end the matter? What a joke! Who was the Wu Tan Master Palace? He was the god in the hearts of all the cultivators in Wu Tan's secret realm. He was the most powerful existence in this world. Even the top true saint had to kneel and tremble in front of the Wu Tan Master Palace. Who did the master of the Sword Mansion think he was? How could he ask the Wu Tan Master to help him? "How dare you fool me?" The purple-robed woman's eyes turned cold, and there was a hint of anger in them. "I didn't. I've already sent a message. If nothing goes wrong, your palace master will look for you soon," Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. From the beginning to the end, Jian Wushuang appeared very casual and calm, feeling extremely confident. In fact, Jian Wushuang was of course confident. Wu Tan Master was just a principal's master. When Jian Wushuang was young, he had roamed the divine beginning realm and had heard of Wu Tan Master. He knew that Wu Tan Master was a principal's master under the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and the latter was his good friend. There was no need for him to send a message to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master. He just needed to say hello to the 3 palace masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Palace. With his current strength and status, a simple word from him was enough to shake the divine beginning realm. Even if he just casually said hello, the 3 palace masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance did not dare to be negligent. They immediately contacted Wu Tan Master as soon as possible. As for what happened next, the true saints from Wu Tan Palace were furious at Jian Wushuang. They did not believe what he said at all and thought that Jian Wushuang was just teasing them. Not only them, but Hu Yang also thought so. He was worried for his teacher. However, just as the purple-robed woman was about to take down Jian Wushuang, their master, Wu Tan Master, sent them a message. Palace Master? Did you send a message? The purple-robed woman was slightly stunned. When she saw the message clearly, she was so scared that her face turned pale and her eyes showed an unprecedented fear. Wu Tan Master's message was like this. Idiots! What on earth are you doing? Immediately, apologize to the person in front of you and wipe away the anger of the other party at all costs. If the other party is even the slightest bit dissatisfied with you after this, the few of you, as well as the people close to you, including your teachers or good friends, wash your necks and wait to be slaughtered. Wu Tan Master was clearly furious. There was even a deep sense of fear in his anger. The purple-robed woman and the others could feel this kind of fear. How could this be? The purple-robed woman and the true saints from Wu Tan Palace were trembling. From the Wu Tan Master's words, they realized that the person in front of them was a true supreme existence. He was even stronger than their palace master, Wu Tan Master. Could he be a top principles master or a ruler from the divine beginning realm? The purple-robed woman thought in fear. As an elder of Wu Tan Palace, she knew more about Wu Tan's secret realm than the others. She knew that she was only in a secret realm, and their palace master was only a principles master in the divine beginning realm. There were many principles masters in the divine beginning realm who were stronger than her palace master. It was very likely that they had met one now. Taking a deep breath, the purple-clothed woman immediately floated down. In the Sword Mansion, everyone was waiting for the reaction of the purple-clothed woman and the others. When they saw the purple-clothed woman floating down, they thought that she was going to attack. However, the purple-clothed woman came to Jian Wushuang, but she directly knelt down on one knee. We didn't know your identity and have offended you. You can punish us as you like, but please forgive us and let us live. The purple-clothed woman knelt there with her head very low. The other true saints also knelt there obediently and did not dare to breathe loudly. Silence. The entire Sword Mansion fell silent. The cold elder and the golden-robed young man felt an unprecedented chill fill their bodies and minds. The dignified 9th elder of the Wu Tan Palace, one of the most powerful people in the Wu Tan secret realm, was actually kneeling before this sword gallery master and begging for his life? No. How is this possible? The cold elder's eyes were wide open. Teacher. Hu Yang also looked at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. Master. The disciples of the Sword Mansion were also shocked. Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly and said, I told you to let this matter go, and Wu Tan Palace will not pursue this disciple of mine anymore. I don't dare. The purple-robed woman shook her head. At this critical moment, she would not dare to say anything even if Hu Yang killed more than half of Wu Tan Palace's core disciples, let alone one. Okay, you can leave. But when you leave, help me take these people with you. My sword mansion is too small to accommodate them. Jian Wushuang pointed at the cold elder and the gold-robed young man. He smiled and said, Yes. The purple-clothed woman nodded respectfully. After getting up, she immediately used her skills to capture the cold elder and the golden-robed young man. Then, she left with the true saints from Wu Tan Palace. The sword mansion calmed down early in the morning when the purple-clothed woman and the others left. Okay, everyone, go and practice your swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and walked toward the backyard. Teacher. Hu Yang wanted to follow him, but he stopped halfway. He wanted to know who his teacher was, what kind of amazing identity he had, and why even an elder of Wu Tan Palace had to kneel in front of him. However, Jian Wushuang clearly did not intend to tell him. The sword mansion calmed down again, but what had happened before was clearly seen by many disciples of the sword mansion. All of them were very excited and were guessing the identity and strength of their master. Not only that, the news spread quickly through the city through the disciples of the sword mansion. However, it was only spread in the city and could not be spread to other places. Therefore, almost no one was willing to believe it. These people who had lived in the Wu Tan secret realm since birth had long believed that the Wu Tan secret realm was heaven and earth, and that the master of Wu Tan was the strongest creature. As for those who were comparable to or even stronger than the master of Wu Tan, they did not even dare to think about it. 10 days later, Hu Yang. Jian Wushuang called Hu Yang over. Teacher. Hu Yang was extremely respectful. In a while, someone will come to visit the sword mansion. Wait at the door. When he comes, bring him to me directly, Jian Wushuang instructed. Yes. Hu Yang nodded respectfully and immediately went to wait at the door of the sword mansion. After a short while, someone indeed arrived at the entrance of the sword school. It was an old man dressed in black. He was thin and weak and had a goatee. The aura of this old man was very unique. At the very least, Hu Yang could not tell whether it was real or fake. May I ask if you are here to visit your teacher? Hu Yang looked at the person who came. Yes, your little friend Hu Yang, right? The goatee-bearded old man said with a smile. Hu Yang. Hu Yang smiled faintly and said, Sir, follow me. Hu Yang immediately led the goateed elder toward the inner courtyard. In the courtyard, under the old tree, Jian Wushuang and his wife sat upright and brewed tea in front of them. Teacher, they are here, Hu Yang said. Wu Tan greets Heavenly Sword Marquis and his wife. The goateed elder immediately bowed respectfully. Wu Tan. Hu Yang was stunned. Everyone in the Wu Tan secret realm knew that the supreme expert was the Wu Tan master. Therefore, most people would avoid the word Wu Tan when naming him. But the person in front of them was called Wu Tan? Don't you people in the Wu Tan view the Wu Tan master as a god? Why can't you recognize this god when he is standing in front of you? Lung Rushuang said with a faint smile. Hu Yang glared at her. He had already understood what Lung Rushuang meant. Wu Tan? You are the Wu Tan master? Hu Yang looked at the old man with a goatee in disbelief. The Wu Tan master was a supreme god in this Wu Tan secret realm. He ruled over everything. The cultivators in this secret realm believed in the Wu Tan master from the moment they were born. Hu Yang was no exception. But now, the supreme god in his heart was standing in front of him, and in front of his teacher, he was clearly very respectful and cautious. When Hu Yang thought about how the Wu Tan master had called him little friend Hu Yang, he felt confused. Oh my god! What kind of existence is my teacher? Why is the Wu Tan master so respectful to him? Hu Yang roared in his heart. Okay, Hu Yang, you can go now. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and said. Hu Yang nodded dully and walked out of the courtyard. However, it was obvious that he had not regained his senses when he left. In the courtyard, Wu Tan master, take a seat. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and said. I dare not. Wu Tan master stood there, extremely cautious. Of course, he was cautious. He was not as ignorant as the cultivation in this secret realm. He knew very well what kind of existence the person in front of him was. He was one of the strongest experts in the divine beginning realm. Although he was only a principal's master, he was on par with the rulers. Even the rulers of the divine beginning realm faintly regarded him as their leader. As a principal's master of the Void Four Realms, it was already good enough for him not to kneel down in front of such a super existence. How could he dare to sit down? Wu Tan master, you are here for the incident 10 days ago, right? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Yes. Wu Tan master quickly nodded. 10 days ago, my subordinates did not recognize Mount Tai and offended you. I have already punished them severely. Today, I am here to apologize to you. In fact, Jian Wushuang had said that the matter was over, which meant that he would not pursue it. However, Wu Tan master still took the initiative to apologize. Haha, that matter has been settled. There's no need to mention it anymore. I won't blame you. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Wu Tan Master heaved a sigh of relief. By the way, Wu Tan Master, you're a Principles Master under the Heaven-Slaying League, and you're also a core member. So, you should know about the three-layer Dao realm, right? Jian Wushuang looked at him. Of course I do. I've been cultivating in the second-layer Dao realm. I came here immediately after the incident 10 days ago, Wu Tan Master said respectfully. The three-layer Dao realm was very useful to the divine beginning realm. At first, Shen God and the others did not use this treasure on all the high-level cultivators in the divine beginning realm. They only chose some of the more trustworthy and powerful ones to secretly cultivate in the three-layer Dao realm. However, after 1,000 years, most of the immortal saints who entered the three-layer Dao realm had broken through to become Principles Masters. The Principles Masters had also received a great increase in their strength. In addition, the mysterious God and the others were also cultivating in the third-layer Dao realm. This completely confirmed the efficacy of the three-layer Dao realm. Therefore, they began to use this treasure on the many high-level cultivators in the divine beginning realm. During these 2,000 years, there were already a large number of immortal saints in the divine beginning realm. Many Principles Masters had been sent to the three-layer Dao realm. Wu Tan Master was a Principles Master in the core of the Heaven-Slaying League, so he was qualified to enter the three-layer Dao realm. You've been cultivating in the three-layer Dao realm? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he asked, How's the cultivation? It's amazing. In less than 1,000 years, I've mastered one more principle. From the 3 realms of the void to the 4 realms of the void. This is because my talent is relatively average. Several Principles Masters who entered the second realm at the same time as me have already improved by 2 realms. The 3-layer Dao realm is definitely an incredible place, Wu Tan Master exclaimed. After saying that, he secretly glanced at Jian Wushuang. There was a rumor in the 3-layer Dao realm that Jian Wushuang had brought it back from the universe battlefield. It seems that the 3-layer Dao realm has improved the strength of the high-level cultivators in the divine beginning realm. Jian Wushuang nodded and said, Well, there's nothing else. You should go back and cultivate. Yes. Wu Tan Master left immediately. Only Jian Wushuang and his wife were left in the courtyard. We just wanted to find a quiet place and live a quiet life. But after the incident 10 days ago, I'm afraid we won't be able to live a quiet life here anymore, Leng Rushuang said. It's okay. We can just move to another place, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay. Leng Rushuang nodded. Over the years, he and Jian Wushuang had traveled around the world together and lived a peaceful life in the secret land of heaven and earth. They were indeed very happy. Of course, she wanted to continue this happiness as long as possible. Jian Wushuang also knew this, and he was willing to stay with his wife. But suddenly, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Leng Rushuang looked over. Shuang I'm sorry. Jian Wushuang frowned and said apologetically. Leng Rushuang immediately understood. Is it the Star Palace? Leng Rushuang asked. Jian Wushuang nodded and said, The Shen God just sent me a message saying that something has happened in Star Palace, and he wants me to go as soon as possible. In that case, let's go. Leng Rushuang smiled and did not care at all. However, Jian Wushuang still felt a little apologetic. He had just said that he would take Leng Rushuang to the next place to continue this quiet life. But in the blink of an eye, he had to go back to Star Palace. Go. Don't forget that you are the biggest pillar of the divine beginning realm. The divine beginning realm needs you, Leng Rushuang said softly. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. In the Sword Mansion, Jian Wushuang summoned Hu Yang. Hu Yang, my wife and I will leave this place soon, Jian Wushuang said directly. Leave. Hu Yang was stunned and asked, Teacher, where are you going? Outside this world, it should be a very distant place for you. I plan to give this sword mansion to you. Jian Wushuang looked at Hu Yang and waved his hand, sending a sword essence directly into Hu Yang's body. I've left a sword principle in your body. This sword essence has barely reached the threshold of a principle's master. You can comprehend it on your own. If you can completely comprehend and master this sword essence in the future, You can leave this world to find me. I'll take you in as an in-name disciple. Have you completely comprehended the sword essence? Hu Yang clenched his hands. I'll definitely work hard. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. After giving his instructions, he left with Lung Rushuang. As for the Sword Mansion, it was opened casually by him. Among the disciples of the Sword Mansion, Jian Wushuang only admired Hu Yang a little. However, what he admired was Hu Yang's temperament. He left a sword essence behind. It was very difficult for Hu Yang to completely master the sword essence with his talent. This was also a test for Hu Yang. If he could really master the sword essence in the future, Jian Wushuang would not mind taking him as an in-name disciple. After leaving the Wu Tan's secret realm, Lung Rushuang chose to return to the Eternal Saint world. Jian Wushuang immediately set off for Star Palace. The security in Star Palace was obviously much stricter than before. When Jian Wushuang arrived at Star Palace, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Divine Ancestor were already waiting for him. My young friend, I'm sorry to disturb your reunion with your wife, Taoist Shen God said apologetically. It doesn't matter. Let's get down to business, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. You called me here in such a hurry. Something must have happened in Star Palace, right? Yes, Star Palace has encountered a crisis this time, Shen God Dao said. Crisis? Is it Ancient Night Demon Palace? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked. Star Palace's overall strength was extremely powerful now. Not only did it have him, but Shen God and the others also had the battle strength of 4 rulers and thousands of principals masters. With such strength in this star field, the only person who could bring danger to the Star Palace was most likely the Ancient Night Demon Palace, which had been created by Demon Monarch Ancient Night. Right? Shen God nodded, then began to explain in detail. This matter arose because of the 3-layered Dao realm, a supreme law treasure. The 3-layered Dao realm's effects are heaven-defying. In the beginning, we didn't use the 3-layered Dao realm for the entire divine beginning realm, but as each cultivator entered the 3-layered Dao realm, their power increased dramatically. In order to increase the combat power of the divine beginning realm as quickly as possible, we began to delay things in the divine beginning realm, gathering a large number of experts from various powers to enter and train. Although all of this was done in the divine beginning realm, there are spies and spies from the other astral worlds, as well as the various factions in the star field. All of the experts from the various factions in the star field have received the news of us sending people into the 3-layer Dao realm in such a grand fashion. Naturally, this news has also reached the Ancient Night Demon Palace. The Ancient Night Demon Palace is now the absolute overlord of this star field. Judging from the way that Demon Monarch Ancient Night acted before, he has always been incomparably tyrannical. Previously, it was only because our star field was relatively weak that the Ancient Night Demon Palace looked down on us. However, now that the marvel of this 3-layer Dao realm has caused countless experts in the star field to sigh in amazement, the Ancient Night Demon Palace is naturally interested. A few days ago, Ruler Junyun, a subordinate of Ancient Night Demon Palace, came to our Star Palace. Ruler Junyun? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He also knew that Ruler Junyun was a solitary ruler in this star field. His battle strength was relatively strong among advanced rulers, and he was cunning. He had a grudge with many big forces in this star field. After the rise of Demon Monarch Ancient Night, after destroying the North Sea Palace and establishing Demon Monarch Ancient Night, Ruler Junyun had joined the palace and become one of the rulers under Demon Monarch Ancient Night. When Ruler Junyun arrived, he immediately asked for the 3-layered Dao realm. Of course, his words were more pleasant to hear. He said that Demon Monarch Ancient Night was quite interested in the 3-layered Dao realm and wanted to borrow it for fun. Later, he would send it back to my star palace. Taoist Shen God snickered. We naturally wouldn't believe such lies from a 3-year-old child. When we refused to give him the 3-layered Dao realm, Ruler Junyun immediately fell out with us, and they even began to fight. However, although Ruler Junyun is quite powerful, and is considered extremely powerful even amongst high-level rulers, the 4 of us have been training in the 3-layer Dao realm over the past few years, and our power has increased tremendously. In addition to those supreme true treasures you brought back earlier, my young heavenly Marquis, we were able to easily get rid of him. Of course, for the sake of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, we only defeated him and allowed him to leave. However, after he returned, he informed Demon Monarch Ancient Knight of this matter and added fuel to the fire, saying that our Star Palace had humiliated him in a great way. This angered Demon Monarch Ancient Knight greatly, and he directly sent word that within 10 years, this Palace Lord of Star Palace will personally bring the 3-layer Dao realm to apologize to the Ancient Knight Demon Palace. Otherwise, he will directly attack and completely destroy our Star Palace. When Taoist Xian God finished speaking, his expression clearly carried a hint of worry. He was not the only one. Taoist Xian God, the leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and the Divine Ancestor were the same as well. Although they had trained in the 3-layer Dao realm over the years and had greatly increased their strength, when faced with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, who had been able to kill Ruler Skyrock with a single strike and severely injure Ruler Kuan-Yu, they did not have the confidence to face him. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly after hearing it. He already understood the cause and effect of this matter. It was nothing more than that the 3-layer Dao realm was too magical and attracted the covetous eyes of Ancient Knight Demon Palace. However, the 3-layer Dao realm was a principal supreme treasure that he brought out from the Red Cloud world. It was of unprecedented use to the entire Divine Beginning realm. How could Xian God and the others hand it over? Young friend Heavenly Marquis, we called you over this time because we want to discuss a countermeasure together. We want to see how we can resolve this crisis in Star Palace, said the Temporal Temple Master. We absolutely cannot hand over the 3-layer Dao realm. There's no need to doubt that, said Taoist Xian God seriously. Right? The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Divine Ancestor nodded in unison. Xian God, in my opinion, why don't we just give up Star Palace and return to the Divine Beginning realm? From now on, we won't be able to leave the Divine Beginning realm. Your Demon Monarch Ancient Knight is powerful, but as long as we stay in the Divine Beginning realm, he won't be able to do anything to us, said the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master in a low voice. Abandon the Star Palace? The rulers present were all stunned. If they abandoned the Star Palace and returned to the Divine Beginning realm, then Demon Monarch Ancient Knight would not be able to do anything to them. After all, the Divine Beginning realm rejected rulers from the outside world. No matter how strong Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was, he could only maintain the power of a ruler of principles in the Divine Beginning realm. His battle strength was only at the ruler level. Unless he was tired of living, otherwise he would definitely not dare to take the risk of barging in. However, the crux of the matter was that the Star Palace had existed in this star field for so many years. It had more or less some foundation, and its strength was getting stronger and stronger. Not to mention other things, just the thousands of ruler of laws in the Star Palace alone was an extremely strong battle strength. In the future, when they fought with the Devil Cloud Star, this battle strength would also be useful. It would inevitably be a pity to give it up just like that. In addition, once they made this choice, they would be doomed to remain hidden within the Divine Beginning realm, unable to venture into the universe battlefield. Let's make a decision. In my opinion, giving up Star Palace is the most regrettable choice we have right now. In any case, we now have 3 Dao realms. We can easily create a large number of Principles Masters within the Divine Beginning realm, and quite a few rulers as well. As for the true treasures, we have enough of them that little friend Heavenly Marquis brought back from the Red Cloud world. Even if we don't venture into the universe battlefield for a short period of time, it won't be a problem, the Divine Ancestor said. I agree. Temporal Temple Master nodded. Xian God, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, and the Divine Ancestor all looked at Xian God. Xian God had built Star Palace, so he was reluctant to give it up. Xian God frowned and hesitated. Before Xian God could reply, Jian Wushuang suddenly said, Actually, it's not enough to give up Star Palace. Huh! Xian God immediately raised his head. The other 3 rulers also immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. My young friend, do you have another way to get out of this crisis in Star Palace? Temporal Temple Master asked. Yes, there is, and it's very simple. I'll go directly to Ancient Knight Demon Palace and talk to Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. What kind of way is that? Temporal Temple Master frowned. Demon King Ancient Knight is overbearing and extremely powerful. If you go to him, he might kill you without saying a word. This is not the way to solve the problem, Taoist Shen God added. My young friend, this is impossible. Demon King Ancient Knight will never listen to you unless you are strong enough to fight him head-on or make him unable to do anything to you. Maybe he will listen to you, the divine ancestor said. I should have such strength, Jian Wushuang said. What? Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the divine ancestor all looked at Jian Wushuang. My dear Heavenly Marquis, you just said that you have the strength to fight Demon Monarch Ancient Knight head-on? Are you sure? Taoist Shen God looked incredulous. After all, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight killed a superior ruler in one move. Even the most powerful expert in the star field, Ruler Kuan Yu, was severely injured by Demon Monarch Ancient Knight and fled for his life in fear. It was still a mystery how strong Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was. However, there was no doubt that no one in the star field could stop him. How could Jian Wushuang say that he could fight against Demon Monarch Ancient Knight? Don't worry. I know the origin of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. I also know his background and strength. Although I'm not sure if I can win against him, I'm afraid it won't be easy for him to defeat me. If I just want to survive, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight won't be able to do anything to me, even if he is 2 or 3 times stronger. Jian Wushuang was very confident. He did have this confidence. When he had gone to the Dark Demon area to explore, his battle strength had already reached the 2nd stage ruler level. He had made a huge breakthrough in the Dark Demon area and grasped a trace of the universe principles, which had greatly increased his strength. After returning from the Dark Demon area, he had stayed in the Red Cloud world for thousands of years. During these thousands of years, he had stayed in the 2nd sky of the Red Cloud world. With the help of those fortuitous opportunities, his strength had also greatly increased. He still had many trump cards in his hands. Right now, his strength was indeed very strong, very strong. As for Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, he was a prisoner who had escaped from the 1st level of the Eternal Prison. His strength was either at the peak of the 2nd level, a ruler, or at the 3rd level, a low-level ruler. If it was the former, he could definitely fight him head-on. Even victory was hard to predict. As for the latter, even if he could not defeat him, he could easily fight him to save his life. Therefore, from the beginning, Jian Wushuang was not afraid of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight because he could not do anything to him. Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you sure you can deal with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master still found it hard to believe. Of course. Just stay in Star Palace and wait for my good news. Jian Wushuang smiled. Seeing his confidence, the 4 rulers looked at each other and nodded secretly. In their minds, Jian Wushuang had created miracles for them more than once. They had tried to persuade Jian Wushuang not to enter the dark magic region, which was extremely dangerous. But in the end, Jian Wushuang still walked out of the dark magic region safely. In the Red Cloud world, no one had passed the test of the 1st heaven of the Red Cloud world. However, Jian Wushuang had passed it and brought a lot of treasures from the Red Cloud world. There was also the incredible 3-layered Dao realm. All of these added together made them full of confidence in Jian Wushuang. Now that Jian Wushuang said that he was confident in facing Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, they all chose to believe him. But you should be careful. If you can't defeat Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, you should retreat. After all, if we can't, we should abandon Star Palace and retreat to the Divine Beginning Realm, said Taoist Shen God. Don't worry, I won't risk my life. Jian Wushuang smiled. After saying goodbye to the 4 people, he left for the Ancient Knight Demon Palace. The Ancient Knight Demon Palace used to be the base of the North Sea Palace. In order to get the Netherworld Divine Sword, the Shen God had brought Jian Wushuang here. When he saw the base of the North Sea Palace, Jian Wushuang was quite impressed. However, the world was unpredictable. In the blink of an eye, the North Sea Palace was destroyed. Even the Sky Rock ruler, who was very powerful, died. And now, Jian Wushuang came here alone. North Sea Palace, no? It's the ancient night demon palace now. Jian Wushuang stood in the void in black with the divine sword on his back, looking down at the huge demon palace covered by the magic array. Compared to the North Sea Palace, the ancient night demon palace's overall strength was stronger, and the palace gate was more magnificent. Jian Wushuang rushed toward the entrance. As soon as he got close, two figures blocked his way. Who are they? The auras emitted by the two figures were not weak. They had reached the fourth realm of the Void Realm. Please inform them that Bloodsword is here to visit Ancient Night Demon Emperor, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Bloodsword? Bloodsword Master? The two principals masters were shocked. The name of a man was the shadow of a tree. Jian Wushuang was recognized as the strongest principals master in the history of this star field. He could fight against a superior ruler. Such an expert was certainly awe-inspiring. If the two principals masters of the four void realms were standing in front of Jian Wushuang, they would have been respectful to him in the past. But now, when they thought of the huge ancient night demon palace behind them, and the demon emperor, they felt more confident. Bloodsword Master, wait here for a moment. I'll go and report for you. One of the principals masters immediately went in to report. Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry. He just stood there quietly. The magnificent palace was resplendent. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, who was dressed in black armor, sat high up in the air. There were many beautiful women dancing below her. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight held a glass of wine in one hand and a beauty in the other. He looked down at the beautiful women, looking very relaxed. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had indeed been living very leisurely these past few years. One had to know that he had escaped from the Eternal Dark Prison. The Eternal Dark Prison was almost like a huge Azura battlefield. The prisoners imprisoned there could only do their best to survive. For this reason, the prisoners had to be careful at all times. They could not afford to slack off. How could they live a leisurely and comfortable life? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had been imprisoned there for an unknown number of years and had long been driven mad. Now that he had escaped with great difficulty, the first thing he did was to occupy a large piece of territory and wantonly search for beautiful women to enjoy the blessings of all. He had to relax his body and mind first. At this moment, the principal's masters who had reported the matter walked in. Demon Monarch, Blood Sword Master has arrived outside the palace. He says he is here to pay a visit to the Demon Monarch. The principal's master said respectfully as he knelt down on one knee. Pay a visit? The other rulers under Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's command within the palace all looked over. Are you sure he said he was here to pay a visit and not pay a visit? Ruler Jun Yun asked. I heard him very clearly, but he said he was here to pay a visit, the principal's master said. Ruler Jun Yun immediately frowned. Paying a visit and paying a visit seemed to be only a single word apart, but the meaning behind it was vastly different. It must be understood that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was currently the absolute ruler of this star field. All of the major powers in this star field, including the supreme rulers, had to pay a formal visit when they arrived. But now, the Blood Sword Master had actually said that he was paying a visit? Paying a visit was equivalent to placing himself on the same level as Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Blood Sword Master? A principal's master. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight looked down, but his gaze was very calm, without the slightest hint of anger. If the other party was a supreme ruler who said that he was paying a visit to him, he might still be angry, but he could not be bothered to care about a mere principal's master. After all, principal's masters were nothing more than ants to him. He wouldn't care about them at all. Demon Monarch, this Blood Sword Master, is indeed only a principal's master, but he is the most heaven-defying principal's master in the history of this star field. His talent is unparalleled throughout history, and in terms of combat power, he already had the combat power of a supreme ruler when the Red Cloud world first appeared many years ago, Ruler Junyun said. Oh! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's expression changed, obviously interested. A principal's master has the battle strength of a first-tier, top-tier ruler? Such talent is rare even in the vast universe. Haha! I didn't expect there to be such a genius in your star field. After knowing Jian Wushuang's battle strength, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was pleasantly surprised. This Blood Sword Master is not bad. If I capture him and make him submit to me, he might become one of my arms when he breaks through to become a ruler. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight smiled faintly. His cold eyes looked down. Sky Master. Demon Emperor. Sky Master bowed respectfully. Do you know about this Blood Sword Master? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight asked. Of course. Sky Master smiled. He is recognized as the #1 monster in our star field and the strongest principles master in history. It's true that his battle strength is comparable to that of a superior ruler. And I'm the one who recognized his battle strength as a superior ruler. In the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang had challenged all the experts, and the only superior ruler who took the initiative to challenge him was Sky Master. Back then, although Jian Wushuang was at a disadvantage in the battle with Sky Master could not do anything to him. After that, Sky Master announced to the public that Jian Wushuang had the battle strength of a top master. But now, Sky Master had already submitted to Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. He was smart enough to come to the North Sea Palace after knowing that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had easily destroyed it. Moreover, he also had a large force under him that had also joined the Ancient Knight Demon Palace. Now, this Skylord's position in the Ancient Knight Demon Palace was only second to Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Furthermore, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was generous with his actions. By following beside Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, he had obtained many benefits, and his strength had also increased by quite a bit, compared to before. Since the two of you have interacted before, it will be even simpler. Go and capture the Blood Sword Master and bring him to me. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight instructed. Demon Monarch, although I'm much stronger than the Blood Sword Master, he's very good at surviving. Even if he can't defeat me, he can easily leave. I can't capture him with my strength, Sky Master said with a frown. Oh! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight raised his eyebrows and then smiled. That's even more interesting. Don't worry, you can fight him. I want to see how powerful this Principles Master is. But you must be careful when you fight. Don't kill him. Yes. Sky Master smiled and turned to leave the palace. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was not interested in the beauties in front of him. Instead, he spread his soul power and paid attention to Jian Wushuang outside the Demon Palace. Outside the Demon Palace, Jian Wushuang was waiting quietly. Suddenly, a figure rushed out of the Demon Palace and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. You are Sky Master? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Blood Sword Master, long time no see. Sky Master smiled indifferently. You actually joined the Ancient Knight Demon Palace? Jian Wushuang's expression was strange. Of course, a wise man submits to circumstances. The Demon Monarch's demonic might is unrivaled. No one in this star field can resist him. Why is it strange that I joined the Demon Monarch's army? Moreover, I've benefited a lot from the Demon Monarch's army over the years. Now, I'm the first general under the Demon Monarch's command. Blood Sword Master, you're very talented, but no one can guide you in this star field, so you're still just a Principles Master. Why don't you join Demon Monarch and become a great general under Demon Monarch like me? If Demon Monarch gives you some advice, maybe you'll break through to become a ruler. In the future, we'll fight in the universe together with Demon Monarch. Wouldn't that be great? Sky Master said. Become a general under Demon Monarch Ancient Knight? Jian Wushuang asked with a strange look on his face. Sky Master, I don't like to live under someone else's roof like you do. As a ruler, I will naturally break through slowly. I don't want to worry about your ruler. I came to visit Demon Monarch Ancient Knight today because I have something to discuss with him. Something to discuss? It should be about your star palace, right? Sky Master looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Haha, your star palace dares to disrespect and humiliate our Ancient Knight Demon Palace's ruler, Death Ruler. The Demon Monarch already knows about this and is quite angry. He is ready to destroy your star palace. It's too late for you to beg for mercy now. Of course, if you become a general under the Demon Monarch will forgive you for your previous offense. Your star palace can even rise in the star field in the future. What do you think? Sky Master continued to invite him. Sky Master, I said I'm not interested in that general. I'm too lazy to talk to you. You'd better go and tell your demon monarch to come out, Jian Wushuang said coldly with his hands behind his back. If you refuse a toast, you'll be forced to drink a forfeit. In that case, I can only capture you to see the demon monarch. Sky Master's voice was cold, and a strong divine power swept out from his body. In the next moment, Sky Master attacked directly. Sky Master flipped his palm, and a red gold hammer appeared in his hand. The power of this hammer soared to the sky. It was the most powerful supreme treasure in terms of attack. Buzz! The void shook slightly, and Sky Master's red gold hammer turned into red gold lightning and smashed toward Jian Wushuang at a terrifying speed across the void. The red gold lightning was extremely fast and powerful. The Sky Master seems to be stronger than before. Jian Wushuang frowned. As soon as he saw the red gold lightning, he could tell that the Sky Master was much more powerful than when he fought with him in the Red Cloud world. He was much stronger. Of course, he was no longer comparable to the Red Cloud world when it was born. Jian Wushuang struck out with his sword. The Netherworld Divine Sword turned into a pitch-black shadow and slashed out casually. It was indeed a casual strike, but the sword skill contained the universe origin of sword principle, which was extremely rich. Bang! A low collision sound was heard, and the Sky Master's arm slightly sank. What? The Sky Master was stunned. However, Jian Wushuang struck out again and again. Each strike was casual and plain. However, the sword shadows were so fast that Sky Master could not resist them with all his strength. Even if he tried to resist, it would be very difficult. How is this possible? How can his swordsmanship be so amazing, and the power contained in it? His divine power is not very strong, but when he uses his swordsmanship, his strength completely surpasses my sledgehammer. Sky Master looked incredulous. When they fought in the Red Cloud world last time, he was not as strong as he was now, but he could still easily suppress Jian Wushuang, except that he could not kill him. But now, when they fought again, he was obviously stronger, but when they fought, he was completely suppressed. Demon King told me to be careful and not to kill him, but in this situation, how can I be careful? Sky Master's eyes flashed with a fierce light. I can't care about that anymore. Sky Master suddenly roared, and a cold light suddenly lit up between his eyebrows. The light directly merged with the surface of Sky Master's divine body, and his aura suddenly increased. The power of his red gold hammer also increased greatly. Boom! The red gold hammer crashed down, and for a moment, it seemed as if the entire world was pressing down. Second-level battle strength? A trace of surprise flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The last time Sky Master fought with him, he was only an ordinary superior ruler of the first level. But now, when they fought again, his battle strength was obviously among the superior rulers, which was extremely terrifying, and now, he even displayed an attack power comparable to that of a second-level ruler. It seems that he has benefited a lot from being under Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. Then, he moved his body and made a simple dash, and the Netherworld Divine Sword also made a simple stab. His divine power did not increase, but the sword principle universe origin contained in his swordsmanship was suddenly several times stronger than before. Clang! The Netherworld Divine Sword directly collided with the golden hammer. The hammer looked extremely heavy and powerful. Compared to the hammer, Jian Wushuang's Netherworld Divine Sword looked very thin and weak. However, Jian Wushuang's Netherworld Divine Sword did not move at all. Instead, the golden hammer in Sky Master's hand was thrown away. Even though the divine weapon in his hand was thrown away, the power of Jian Wushuang's Netherworld Divine Sword was not completely exhausted. It still pierced into Sky Master's divine body. Sky Master's body shook violently, and his aura was instantly weakened. How is this possible? Sky Master regained his balance and looked up at Jian Wushuang with a face full of disbelief. Is it possible? The last time they met, he could easily suppress Jian Wushuang. But now, in the blink of an eye, his strength had increased with the help of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, and he was easily defeated by his opponent? How could this blood sword master be so heaven-defying? Jian Wushuang did not feel proud that he had defeated Sky Master. For him, it was difficult for a master like Sky Master to attract his attention. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, you've been watching for so long. It's time for you to show yourself, Jian Wushuang suddenly said, his voice echoing throughout the entire demon palace. Ha ha! A loud laughter resounded throughout the world. Within the laws of the ancient night demon palace, a burly figure in black armor slowly stepped out. Behind this burly figure were a few rulers who had submitted to the demon monarch ancient knight, including ruler Yun. Blood Sword Master, right? Previously, my subordinates said that you were able to fight against ordinary peak rulers at the level of a principal's master. I didn't quite believe it, but now that I've seen it, you are much more powerful than they said. Sky Master has been by my side all these years, and his strength has increased quite a bit. I've also taught him a unique technique, and in a short period of time, his battle prowess could barely reach the second level, but he was still defeated by you with a single sword strike. I'm afraid that your strength is even stronger than that ruler called Kuan Yu that I casually defeated. With a hint of excitement in his eyes, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight said, I've decided that from today on, you will be the first general under my command. As for Sky Master, you will be the second general. Hearing Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's words, the corner of Sky Master's mouth twitched slightly, but he did not say anything. In this world, strength was always respected. Jian Wushuang had defeated him, so if he really became Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's subordinate, he would be the first general, and his status would definitely be higher than his. You are Demon Monarch Ancient Knight? Jian Wushuang took a careful look at Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. As expected of someone who had escaped from the eternal dark prison, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's aura and pressure were extremely strong. He stood there without even needing to fight, however, he gave off the feeling of a peerless demon god. Just his aura alone was enough to make ordinary rulers fear him. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, it's easy for you to want me to be your general. As long as your strength is strong enough to make me tremble, I haven't had the slightest thought of trembling or being afraid, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Haha, it's normal for a genius like you to be a little arrogant. If you want to see my strength, I'll grant it to you. Watch carefully, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight said with a smile and waved his hand. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The divine power gathered, and Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's right hand became crystal clear. Then he slapped toward Jian Wushuang's position. It was a simple slap, but in an instant, a towering palm formed in the void. This palm contained 5 different principles at the same time. They were perfectly fused together and emitted a world-shaking aura of destruction. As soon as it took shape, the surrounding space began to tremble, as if it could not withstand the power of this palm print. Around the Demon Palace, the rulers under the command of the ancient Night Demon Palace, as well as many principals masters, widened their eyes in terror when they saw this palm print. In their eyes, this palm print was terrifying. The rulers saw it more clearly. They could clearly sense the power contained in the palm print that made their bodies tremble. It was as if the palm could kill them at will. In fact, it was true. There was a time when Demon Monarch Ancient Knight killed a top-tier ruler Skyrock with a single palm and severely injured Master Kuan Yu, who had reached the second level. He was so frightened that he fled in panic. Now, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight only wanted to intimidate Jian Wushuang. He did not want to kill Jian Wushuang, so the power of this palm was not as powerful as that of the ruler Skyrock. However, it was still very shocking, at least an ordinary master would not be able to withstand it. Seeing the huge palm coming at him, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. Before, Jian Wushuang could not judge the strength of Ancient Night Demon Master. But now, when he attacked, Jian Wushuang understood that the strength of Ancient Night Demon Master was not at the 3rd level, it was probably at the peak or the pinnacle of the 2nd level. An expert at this level was not worthy of Jian Wushuang's fear. Jian Wushuang waved the Netherworld Divine Sword in his hand casually. A thick sword essence rose and formed layers of Earth Sword Realm. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang was covered by dozens of Earth Sword Realms. He stood there without moving, allowing the huge palm print to hit the Earth Sword Realm. Bang! A terrifying explosion shook the sky. The destructive power of the huge palm print completely exploded, sweeping everything around it. However, Jian Wushuang was still standing in the center of the palm print's power. Although more than half of the dozens of Earth Sword realms on his body had been destroyed, there were still many left. In other words, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's palm did not break his sword skill at all. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, is this the absolute strength you mentioned? The corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth curled up slightly. With this strength alone, you are not qualified to make me submit. Ha! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight also frowned. Is it the body-protecting sword skill? But this body-protecting sword skill is so amazing that even my palm can't break it directly. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight laughed again. Haha! It seems that I underestimated you. You didn't use all your strength when you fought with Sky Master. Did you? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, let's cut the crap. I want to see how powerful you are. Jian Wushuang's eyes were burning. Then he moved and took the initiative to attack. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang spread his huge wings and performed the Mystic Light Phantom movement technique. He appeared in front of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight as if he had teleported. Then he slashed out with the Netherworld sword. Whoosh! The space was cut open by his sword. This sword is not very powerful, but Demon Monarch Ancient Knight stared at him. What a rich sword principle universe origin. I've seen countless second-level rulers in the first level of Eternal Darkness prison, but none of them can compare to it. This kid is just a principle's master, but his comprehension of the universe origin of sword principle is so high. Whoosh! 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 One sword light after another came slashing at him. Each sword light contained an extremely rich universe origin of sword principle. With the enhancement of the universe origin of sword principle, the power of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was greatly enhanced. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight swung his fist and attacked. The fist and the sword light collided again and again with extremely strong power. This kid's comprehension of the sword principle universe origin is too high. He is probably one of the strongest among the third-level masters. His swordsmanship is also very exquisite, and even inferior to my fist skills. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was amazed, but more than that, he was pleasantly surprised. To him, the stronger and more heaven-defying Jian Wushuang was, the happier he would be, because in his eyes, Jian Wushuang was already a warrior under him. Bang! Another collision, and Jian Wushuang and Demon Monarch Ancient Knight were separated. Haha, little guy, you really surprised me. A principle's master has such a high understanding of the universe origin of sword principle. Today, you will definitely become the #1 general under my command. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight laughed. Demonic chi surged out of his body, and the power of his two fists instantly increased to a whole new level. Ha! Jian Wushuang frowned. Although he could resist Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's fists with his swordsmanship just now, he knew that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was holding back his power. As a master at the peak of the second level, his divine power was much more powerful than Jian Wushuang's. Bang! Bang! Jian Wushuang was already struggling with 2 consecutive punches. It seems that I can't hold back. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. He slashed out with the Netherworld Divine Sword, and a swift and fierce sword light descended. At the same time, it slashed toward Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. A special power surged into the sword light. With the addition of this special power, the power of Jian Wushuang's sword instantly increased by several times. Bang! The void suddenly trembled, and Demon Monarch Ancient Knight took 3 steps back. At the same time, his right fist was slightly numb and slightly painful. However, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight ignored the pain in his arm and stared at Jian Wushuang. That power just now, that supreme power. It can't be wrong, it's the universe principle. It's definitely the universe principle. This blood sword master has actually comprehended a trace of a universe principle? Ancient Knight Demon Emperor's eyes flashed with unprecedented shock. The universe principle was supreme. Even a ruler would find it extremely difficult to comprehend a trace of it. Any ruler who comprehended a trace of a universe principle could undergo a qualitative change in power. For example, although he was a second-tier pinnacle ruler, the universe principle had always been unattainable to him. As for principle's masters, The universe acknowledged that principles masters were able to comprehend a sliver of the universe principles. They were super geniuses that were hard to come by even in the trillions of astral worlds. Such super geniuses were enough to cause all the major powers in the vast universe to go crazy for them. Countless top-tier autarchs were eager to take such super geniuses as their disciples and inherit their legacy. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was at the peak of the second level, and he came from the depths of the universe. He had seen many geniuses, but he had never seen such a super genius in the billions of star worlds, but he had never seen one. Blood Sword Master, follow me. I guarantee that you will break through to become a ruler within 100,000 years. I'm not just a solitary ruler. I also have a master in the depths of the universe. My master is quite powerful, and there are even supreme-level experts. Follow me to the depths of the universe. I'll ask the supreme-level experts of my master to personally take you as a disciple. Yes, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight said excitedly. He no longer wanted Jian Wushuang to be his subordinate. He could not control a super genius of this level, but his master could. He could not wait to take Jian Wushuang back to his master. Master! Jian Wushuang's expression changed, but he did not doubt it. There might be a master behind Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, but that master was not that strong. Otherwise, how could Demon Monarch Ancient Knight have been imprisoned in the eternal dark prison for so many years? He did not care about the master behind Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, I am not interested in you or your master. Now you should think about how not to be defeated by me. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold, and the netherworld divine sword in his hand turned into a crescent moon in an instant. When the attack was launched, the sword light contained a trace of universe principle, which instantly increased the power of the sword light. At the same time, the vast magic light domain merged with the mystic light realm and directly pressed toward Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. When the two domains merged, even a master at the peak of the second level, such as Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, was greatly affected by this domain. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight paused and immediately fought with Jian Wushuang. However, after a few exchanges, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight found that he was at a slight disadvantage. Blood Sword Master has an extremely high comprehension of the origin of the universe of sword principle and grasped a trace of the universe principle. His swordsmanship is also very good. Although his divine power is much weaker than mine, he is able to subdue me by relying on the wonders of the universe principle and the surrounding domains. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight could not help but exclaim in his heart. He had long heard rumors that after a cultivator comprehended a trace of the universe principle, their strength would increase by many times. Now it seemed that it was true. When Jian Wushuang did not use the universe principle, his battle strength was only at the level of a second-level advanced ruler. But now that he used the universe principle, his battle strength was definitely at the peak of the second level. Haha! Blood Sword Master, your strength is very good. In that case, I won't hold back anymore. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's laughter echoed, and then he slapped. A pair of black gloves appeared on each of his hands. The black gloves emitted an extremely strong destructive aura. It was an extremely powerful supreme true treasure. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight has finally taken out an attack true treasure. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. From the beginning of the battle until now, he had noticed that Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had been fighting with his bare hands. His two fists were extremely stiff and could definitely be compared to an ordinary supreme treasure. They collided with his netherworld divine sword time and time again, but there was no damage. However, after his swordsmanship was integrated with the universe principles, he could not hold on any longer. Now, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had finally taken out his most powerful supreme treasure, the divine weapon. The prisoners in the eternal dark prison are indeed impressive. They are so powerful. I used many methods and the universe principles to force them to take out their attack supreme treasures. Jian Wushuang sighed quietly. The fight with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight made Jian Wushuang more interested in the prisoners in the eternal dark prison. He had decided that he would go to the eternal dark prison to train after this matter was over. Of course, he still had not finished off Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. Blood Sword Master, watch my fist. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's eyes flashed with a bright light, and his whole body turned into a wild beast. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was directly in front of Jian Wushuang with an overwhelming violent aura. He did not hold back his strength at all and completely poured out at this moment. So powerful! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight turned into a wild beast and attacked Jian Wushuang with 2 fists. His fist technique was arrogant and overbearing, and most importantly, each fist contained incredible power. Every time Jian Wushuang collided with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's fists, he felt a heavy mountain pressing down on him. In less than a moment, Jian Wushuang was completely crushed. He even felt that his palm was in great pain, and he almost couldn't hold the Netherworld Divine Sword in his hand. The difference in power is too big. Jian Wushuang sighed. After all, he was a master at the peak of the 2nd level, so his divine power was much stronger than Jian Wushuang's. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight did not come in vain and directly used his strength to suppress Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang found it difficult to resist. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang pulled back and pulled away from Demon Monarch Ancient Knight again. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's demonic might was so overwhelming that he did not immediately catch up. Why? Do you want to stop now that you know you can't defeat him? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight said with a smile. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, as expected of the one who escaped from that place. Your strength is really impressive, Jian Wushuang said. He said it very easily. The spectators, including Ruler Rukong and Ruler Junyun, did not know what Jian Wushuang meant. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was the only one who said the same thing, but his pupils suddenly shrank. You escaped from that place? Does this kid know my origin and the eternal dark prison? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight frowned. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, to be honest, I was looking forward to your strength. It seems that you did not disappoint me. You are very strong, much stronger than anyone I have ever fought with. You are also qualified to make me use Wu Qi, Jian Wushuang said. Wu Qi? What is it? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was confused. Jian Wushuang put the Netherworld Divine Sword back into the sheath on his back. Then he flipped his palm, and a black divine sword with a faint light appeared in his hand. The black divine sword gradually floated there. At first glance, there was nothing unusual about it. However, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight came from the depths of the universe and had been imprisoned in the eternal dark prison for so many years, so his horizons were naturally not low. The moment he saw the black divine sword, his pupils constricted. The black divine sword seemed calm, but beneath its calm surface hid an unprecedented coldness and darkness. Most importantly, the black divine sword also had an unbelievable sharpness. This sharpness seemed to be able to tear apart everything in the world. Not only Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, but everyone else in the surroundings stared at the black divine sword. The sharpness of the black divine sword seemed to be able to tear their souls in half. It was terrifying and terrifying. What kind of treasure is this? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He held the Wu Qi divine sword with one hand and charged forward, his divine power surging. Whoosh! A hazy sword shadow swept out like a cloud of fog, directly enveloping the void in front of him. In the fog, there was an unprecedented cold light flashing. Jian Wushuang's strongest offensive sword skill. Hazy. Humph! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight snorted coldly, and his fist directly turned into a roaring dragon and exploded. Wherever it passed, the space collapsed inch by inch. In the blink of an eye, the shocking sword light contained in the fog collided directly with Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's fist. Bang! A world-shaking bang was heard as the entire Ancient Knight Demon Palace trembled violently under this collision. In the middle of the two, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's expression suddenly changed as a trace of shock surfaced in his eyes. Soon after, his body retreated a great distance. Every step he took was heavy and powerful, shattering the void. After stabilizing his body, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight immediately looked at his right hand. The black glove on his right hand was originally emitting an extremely dense dark light, but at this moment, the dark light was much dimmer than before. My strongest supreme treasure divine weapon actually received some damage? How can this be? Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's face was filled with disbelief. It was known that he had spent a lot of money to kill an expert of the second level in the Eternal Dark Prison. The power of this pair of black gloves was extremely powerful. Among the supreme treasures, it must be of the supreme grade. This pair of gloves was his strongest offensive magic weapon. However, this kind of offensive magic weapon had been slightly damaged in just one collision with Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. The divine sword in your hand. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight looked at the black divine sword in Jian Wushuang's hand again, and his expression kept changing. At first, he was shocked, but in the end, it gradually turned into ecstasy. A principal's true treasure. Yes, that divine sword must be a principal's true treasure. Otherwise, how could my most powerful magic weapon, gloves, be slightly damaged in just one collision? And the power of Blood Sword Master swordsmanship has increased so much. It must be because of the principal's true treasure. Ancient Knight Demon Emperor was really excited. He had never expected that this Blood Sword Master before him was not only a legendary super genius who might not even be one in a billion star worlds. At the same time, the latter actually had a principal's true treasure in his hands. A law true treasure. Not to mention a mere second-level ruler like him, even third-level rulers or even most fourth-level rulers did not have such a true treasure. Such a treasure was enough to drive any master below the fifth level crazy. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was also crazy. Kill! Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's eyes flashed with an unprecedented fierce light. He turned into a prehistoric beast and pounced toward Jian Wushuang again. This time, his power was obviously stronger than before. Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. With the Wuqi divine sword in hand, he had comprehended a trace of the universe principle. With this trace of the universe principle, he could barely use a small part of the power of the Wuqi divine sword. This small part of the power had greatly increased Jian Wushuang's overall strength. This was also one of the reasons why Jian Wushuang dared to face Demon Monarch Ancient Knight head-on. After coming out of the dark magic region, he had comprehended a trace of the universe principle, and his strength had skyrocketed. With the Wuqi divine sword, his battle strength had soared to a whole new level. Because of this, he dared to say that he could fight Demon Monarch Ancient Knight head-on, and the outcome was hard to predict. Now, the power of the demon sword, Wuqi, was gradually revealed in Jian Wushuang's hands. A large group of people had gathered outside the Ancient Knight Demon Palace. These were all experts under the command of the Ancient Knight Demon Palace. There were only a few rulers among them, but there was a large group of principals masters. At this moment, they were all staring intently at the battle in the void ahead. The two sides in that battle were the Ancient Knight Demon Monarch, whom they had already determined to be invincible in this star field, and the other was the Blood Sword Master. At the beginning, they had thought that there would be no suspense in this battle. It was already impressive for Blood Sword Master to be able to withstand a single move from Demon Monarch Ancient Knight, but in the end, the two of them had been fighting fiercely for quite some time now, but there was still no victor? What kind of concept was this? Demon Monarch has already taken out his strongest offensive divine weapon, but in the end, he still isn't able to take down Blood Sword Master. Not only is he unable to take him down, but the Demon Monarch hasn't been able to gain the slightest advantage in his battle with the Blood Sword Master. Instead, he's been making things difficult for the Blood Sword Master's sword arts. Isn't the Blood Sword Master just a principal's masters? And it was said that his battle prowess has barely reached the threshold of a peak ruler, right? But looking at the current situation, how is this just the threshold of a peak ruler? He is not much weaker than Demon Monarch. The experts of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight were all shocked at this moment. They did not know Jian Wushuang's strength before and thought that Jian Wushuang's strength was still at the beginning of the Red Cloud world. At that time, Jian Wushuang was only comparable to a superior ruler at best. But in Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's words, an ordinary superior ruler was like an ant. Ancient Knight Demon Emperor could kill so-called top-tier rulers with one move. For example, Sky Rock ruler of North Sea Palace was killed by Ancient Knight Demon Emperor with one move. At that time, Ancient Knight Demon Emperor did not even use his supreme true treasure godly weapon. But now, He had used his supreme true treasure godly weapon. Ancient Knight Demon Emperor obviously did not hold back any more power, but Blood Sword Master could still fight with Ancient Knight Demon Emperor to a standstill. He even had an advantage by relying on his sword techniques. This was terrifying. No wonder Blood Sword Master was able to walk out of Dark Demon region alive. He is so powerful that even if he entered the deepest part of Dark Demon region, he might not encounter much danger. Before, I thought that Demon Emperor was absolutely invincible in this star region. But now, it seems that there is still someone who can contend against him. And the only one who can contend against Demon Emperor is probably Blood Sword Master. Blood Sword Master is just a Principles Master, but he can fight against Demon Emperor like this. Amazing! All of them could not help but exclaim. There was nothing they could do. The battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed was not something that a Principles Master could have. It was too heaven-defying. On the battlefield, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight was getting more and more shocked. He had indeed shown his strongest strength, and his power had reached its peak. However, Jian Wushuang, who was in front of him, had used a part of the power of the nomological treasure, the Wuxia divine sword, and performed many secret skills at the same time. His power would not be much weaker than his. Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was extremely high, and his comprehension of sword principle was much higher than his comprehension of fist techniques. His only advantage should be that he had stayed in the eternal dark prison for too long and had rich battle experience. Even so, with his swordsmanship, Jian Wushuang could still match up to him and even have a slight advantage. Most importantly, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight had another hidden danger, which was the huge gap in the magic weapon and supreme treasure. The power of a Principle's true treasure is too powerful. Although my fist gloves are also top tier among supreme true treasures, they are still far inferior to a Principle's true treasure. When I fought with Blood Sword Master, my fist and his Principle's true treasure godly sword expanded time and time again. Every time they collided, my supreme true treasure fist gloves would be slightly damaged. Since the fierce battle until now, my supreme true treasure fist gloves have already suffered a lot of damage. If this continues, I'm afraid my fist gloves will be shattered. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight frowned. But at this moment, Wang! An extremely majestic aura suddenly came from the void above. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight immediately looked up and saw a towering stone tablet that was 30,000 feet tall. It was magnified in his pupils. The surface of the stone tablet was surrounded by countless dense secret engravings. These secret engravings were extremely complex. In an instant, the towering stone tablet came crushing down on him. A Principle's true treasure. Another Principle's true treasure. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight roared in his heart. A Principle's true treasure. He had stayed in the first level of Eternal Darkness prison for so many years, and he had encountered countless prisoners. However, he had never seen a Principle's true treasure from these prisoners, but now, he had escaped from Eternal Darkness prison and arrived at the star domain at the edge of the universe. In such a remote star field, not only did he see the Rule's supreme treasure, but he also saw two of them at the same time. Both of them were created by the same person. The second Rule's supreme treasure was naturally the heaven-suppressing tablet. When Jian Wushuang returned to the eternal chaotic world, he refined the heaven-suppressing tablet and took it away. After comprehending a trace of the universe principle, he was able to control the heaven-suppressing tablet. However, because of the special nature of the heaven-suppressing tablet, its true power was weaker than that of a normal Rule's supreme treasure, but it was still powerful enough. At this moment, the heaven suppression tablet was pressing down. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight spoke about the threat of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. He could not resist the pressure of the heaven suppression tablet. Boom! The huge heaven suppression tablet directly smashed into Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. The terrifying power instantly smashed Demon Monarch Ancient Knight into the ground and heavily smashed into the Earth star, leaving a deep and invisible hole in the ground. Many experts of Demon Monarch Ancient Knight looked at this scene in horror. They saw that the invincible Demon Monarch was directly smashed into the ground by a stone tablet controlled by his opponent. Suddenly, whoosh! A figure soared into the sky again. It was Demon Monarch Ancient Knight. However, at this moment, Demon Monarch Ancient Knight's face was a bit pale and he looked a bit embarrassed. Impressive. You actually have 2 law-type supreme treasures. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight stared at Jian Wushuang. You're also impressive. You didn't even get hit by my heaven suppression tablet. It seems that not only is your divine body strong, but the supreme treasure armor on your body is also very impressive, Jian Wushuang said. Humph. Demon Monarch Ancient Knight snorted. But he began to think in his heart. This blood sword master is very powerful, and he has 2 law-true treasures in his hands. In a head-on confrontation, I'm not even his match. Now, it's almost impossible for me to capture him alive. In that case, I can only use my last move and kill him directly, Ancient Knight Demon Emperor snorted.